You want to come up too? Well, we were, an inquiry, I guess. Has this been moved, Mr. Moderator? Article 26?
Yeah,
I assume.
we broke at the point where you have voted.
Thank you. Mr. Pluff and I have, I think, more of a point of inquiry. Mr. Price was just clarifying some with us. My concern is not clarifying the area. We understand the mess, potentially, with laying out the road and where property should have been. The question that I have is the location of the gates vis-a-vis the driveway, and it is a driveway accessing around the landfill and then on up to the transfer station and the treatment plant. And I would like to have explained what impact there would be as a result of this article passing regarding the relocation, if any, of those gates, and what authority this would give to this board or future boards of selectmen regarding relocation or opening and removing the gates.
Anyone on the board care to address Ms. Wilsey's questions?
I think in terms of that question, Bob, I think the town attorney is better positioned to answer that.
Yes, I'm glad. I'm sorry about the delay in terms of this diagram. Back in 1933, of course, the town got a deed to this road, access road to the treatment plant, to the right-of-way, and the road actually is, as deeded, is the shaded portion up here. So it actually veers into what is now private property, which causes a title problem for those people. And so in having the town meeting lay out a road across the road as built, that affords the making this a town road, which it isn't now. It's an access road that the town owns, to makes it a town road. But this continues that portion that veers into private property and causes a title problem for them. So it alleviates that problem. And in terms of where the gate goes, until the other side of the issue is solved, the gate essentially stays. Gate you see there.
That's the current location, yeah. What authority, if any, would this give to the Board of Selectmen or a Board of Selectmen in the future to remove those gates? There is a purpose for those gates.
Mr. Moderator, I think, at least in partial answer, the council may wish to expand on it. Under RSA 231, selectmen have always had the authority, independently of any action, to lay out what we call Haddad's Way.
Right.
Okay, as a public highway. That's not contained within this warrant article, but they could have done that at any time, and they can do that at any time in the future. What's happening here is we're now making the remainder of Tide Mill Road, as we have traversed it to the treatment plant, a Class 5 highway. That means that the town will maintain it. The town will receive revenue from the state under the highway block grant formula for having it there, but the gate won't be removed anywhere simply because there's no place for it to be removed. That is the end of the Class 5 highway. It's like a dead-end road for all intents and purposes. Should Haddad's Way be laid out by this or some future Board of Selectmen, then Haddad's Way would become a Class 5 highway and the gate would be removed because then it constitutes a through road.
Okay. You comfortable, Michael?
The note says that
Mike?
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
take this. Mr. Moody is here. Mr. Moody would like to podium, and then Mr. Pluff will podium after Mr. Moody.
This this road, all the private maps I've ever seen, it's access road to the treatment plant. plan you had done this month. The only, that road was used as an access road to the 1935 treatment plant. But originally they went across the dump to get there. But the town didn't bought at the end of Tide Mill, the 90-degree angle. I've seen the deed in the town clerk's records where they bought the nub. So the traffic could go down this road to the treatment plant, which was dirt. But in 1970, when they formed the DPW, they moved the sheds from the back of the old town office down there. And eventually we built a garage, and that was DPW, and they paved it to protect the town's vehicles. And then in the 1980s, this driveway, the planning board subdivided lots off it, industrial zone, because it was zoned industrial, even though you have to go through Residence A to get there, because it was the dump. So we've maintained what's paved for 5 years, summer and winter maintenance. So it's already a Class 5 road under state statute. So all we're really doing here is whether to abandon that's now on private property and give it to those lots that have been subdivided on this Class 5 road. And then we come to, what are we going to name it? Are we guess we're going to, the address is a Tide Mill Road, even though that's the post office gave addresses, or the assessor's office gave addresses of Tide Mill Road. So I guess we've got to change access road to the sewer treatment plant and make this Tide Mill Road too, because officially it isn't Tide Mill Road. So I guess I can vote for this.
If this is just to clear up the hash marks in the property that is on what's called private property, to move it over to where the old treatment plant road goes, why does the note say that this article relates to the opening of the gates to the transfer station?
Because this is a problem that needs to be resolved in order to do that. And I support doing that. And the voters supported doing that in the 2008 warrant article 2-1. So it was stated there so that we weren't playing any games. We were disclosing what we're doing.
Well, maybe the last vote was to open it, but there are several votes before that from town meeting that didn't vote to open it. So you've opened another can of worms, I think.
I'm Ann Carnaby, 54 Tide Mill Road. I've been up here a lot over the years. I've lived on Tide Mill Road for over 30 years, and for all that time it has been a road at least to the marsh. When it turned the corner, when it got paved, is I think moot at this point. I applaud the Board of Selectmen for their efforts to both honor the vote that said, yes, please open the gate, and do due diligence to clean up whatever vagaries exist in the drawings, the zoning, the layout of the road, whatever, to perhaps pave the way for that to happen. As Attorney Gerald said, it won't happen yet, so we'll wait a little longer, but I think it's really good that our elected officials are attending to the details of keeping our town above board Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, whenever this discussion comes up, I have to remind the people, and my good friend Mr. Pluff and I, and Mr. Moody and Mrs. Woolsey were the only ones here now that were involved back in 1995 when we closed the landfill. It is a driveway, then we get into this whole discussion about Hardart's Way, which was named after George Hart, everybody knows. I don't like this article. I think there's more to it than what's being said here. The voters have said very strongly on at least 2 or 3 other occasions when this warrant came up to leave things as they are. And this agreement, by the way, in that entire area was made by, I think Ann was just alluded by selectmen doing the prudent affairs of the town, by the board at the time with the Rockingham County Superior Court, and its decision we all did, and not only for the best interest of the town, but it was something that should never have been revisited. I'd like to make a motion, if we could pull up the warrant article on the screen here. And then I guess while we're doing that, can I ask through the moderator, was why the selectmen put this on here? Was this requested by anyone to have be put on? As far as I know, it's a selectmen's article. I'm not sure
It was put on there in response to the vote of 2008. However, we cannot respond to the vote of 2008, which again was 2-1, without clearing up problems like this first. And even if we were unresponsive to the vote of 2008, this problem still needs to be cleared up.
Well, before I make my amendment, I do want to just say once again, and I think Mrs. Woolsey talked about it, it just appears to me and to a lot of people that we're revisiting things that boards of selectmen made major decisions years ago, and I'm not quite sure why this is happening now, but I'd like to make a motion that anything after the town, where it says at no expense to the town, to delete the note section. This article relates to the opening of the gates to the transfer station. This article does not address the driveway known as Hardart's Way. I'd like that deleted, and that is my amendment.
Second.
So Mr. Warburton has moved the amendment note by deleting it, seconded by Ms. Woolsey. Any discussion on the Warburton? Let's proceed to a vote. All those in favor of amending Article 26 by deleting the note, raise your voter card. Down cards. All opposed? I declare the Warburton amendment has passed. Article 26 is there as amended. Do we need further discussion? Mr. Ruffey?
Mark Buckley, 7 Carlson Road. It's my understanding that the gate wouldn't be open unless Hardart's Way was accepted as a Class 5 road.
Someone answer Mr. Ruffey's question.
I believe that's correct, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Moody.
In the past, I know that certain boards of selectmen and I think Recreation has been opposed to removing the so-called gates at the end of the road to the treatment plant and Hardart's Way because of the young people that use the recreation fields and skateboard park and volleyball court, sand court on Hardart's Way, because that would mean that trucks going to those businesses may come down Hardart's Way. And that's the major reason that it was always not opened. Now, if the selectmen pass an ordinance, if this passes, and the selectmen pass an ordinance, no trucks on Tide Mill Road, then all trucks will have to go down Hard Arts Way. And the selectmen haven't been having public hearings on their traffic parking ordinances. So I think that's something to think about, because I foresee that as the next move. Back in the late 80s, the board started that no-through trucks, and cost them $5,000 for signs. So that's something to think about on this article.
Mr. Silbert, if you yield to Ms. Woolsey, go ahead.
Quick question. Gentlemen, the road to the treatment plant in capital T and capital P, what address do those structures have there? What address is are they addressed to number 2 road to the treatment plant, or are they addressed to X number Tide Mill Road?
Does anyone know the answer to Ms. Woolsey's question?
I'm not 100%.
Isn't that all Tide Mill Road? You're talking about the road to the treatment plant.
To the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, all of Tide Mill Road.
Let him respond to the question. Mr. Nichols.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure of this, but to the best of my knowledge, the address of those properties is Tide Mill Road.
So what Mr. Nichols said was, and you'll have to adjust.
Let me try
the
one more
microphone.
time.
Okay.
I don't know if 100%, but to the best of my knowledge, the address of those properties is Tide Mill Road.
Right. So that's a little bit misleading when you read that, because that entire road, all the way to Landing Road, was originally the old road to the old Public Works facility in Hampton. And then some individuals allowed private residences, et cetera, and the businesses to be built on that road. But that was originally the old road, the old driveway to access Public Works. So in fact, there's not some mysterious road to the treatment plant and Public Works. That's all Tide Mill Road. That's the end of Tide Mill Road, where it meets Hard Arts Way. Well, I think it helps to understand that. I think that's kind of misleading the way it's structured, because all of Tide Mill Road was originally the road to the treatment plant and Public Works. So it's one and the same.
Mr. Silbert.
Norm Silberdick, 70 Tide Mill Road. It's always amazing to me that every time the subject of Tide Mill Road comes up, I can count on Mr. Warburton, Ms. Woolsey, and Mr. Pluff to get up here and oppose anything that goes on with any modifications. And a conversation, there was a few years ago, we tried to get change made. I heard about, you people don't understand, from Mr. Pluff, that there was obviously some transaction that took place in 1995 that has never been disclosed, at least the residents of Tide Mill Road, regarding why this gate is so sacred and can never be opened. And I think the other day when you talked, Mr. Moody, about safety of children in that ice skating rink, I was driving my car on Tide Mill Road, and a truck coming the way, the opposite way facing me, in order to avoid a head-on collision, I had to hit a telephone pole because cars were illegally parked on Tide Mill Road, because it's a ridiculous road to have truck traffic on it. This will ultimately lead to a solution to the problem if the Board of Selectmen take that solution. This is a first legal step. We tried a warrant article. The warrant article passed a couple of years ago by an overwhelming majority of the citizens of Hampton. We later found out it was an advisory article. Now the Selectmen have done their homework, investigating the legality of the road so that we can now move forward. The school system is now picking up kids on Landing Road, and children have to walk up on Tide Mill Road, which has no sidewalks, which is not safe, to Landing Road to be taken to school. The school board, and I'm excusing myself as a school board member, had contacted the selectmen about wanting the children to be picked up on the road and be able to turn around and go through Hard Arts Way and come out. A logical, rational future. We have, I think, 13 to 15 school-age children on the road. I think ultimately, well, it's not going to be today, It's going to be sometime in the future. It's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silverman. Ms. Carnaby?
As a point of clarification, Tide Mill Road was only paved to not quite to the corner where it meets the marsh and makes a sharp left turn. And from that point to the entrance to the dump was dirt road. I don't believe in the early 1970s that it even went any further than that. Just to clarify that point. Tide Mill Road bed nowadays is totally degraded and broken up from the truck traffic. And when the report from the road survey of the Public Works Department was given to the selectmen, last week I believe it was, they cited the quality of the surface of Tide Mill Road as being among the worst in town. And that has to be because of all the heavy truck traffic that has been directed down there because of the gate. But I also don't think that we're here to debate the gate or Tide Mill Road at this point, because that article does not have to do with that. And let's get one thing done at a time, and then maybe next year.
Thank you, Ms. Carnaby. Seeing no one else at the podium, and this article has already been amended, we will now move on to Article 27. So Article 26.
I'd like to restrict consideration, and you have to pardon me, but I don't remember the last one we left off with.
So Mr. Nichols would like to restrict reconsideration of Article 26.
And whatever prior ones.
That would be 24 and 25. So 24 through 26, Articles 24 through 26. Mr. Nichols has moved to restrict reconsideration. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Zanoy. All in favor of restricting reconsideration of Articles 24 to 26, raise your voter card. Down card. Any opposed? Articles 24 through 26 have been restricted from further consideration at this meeting. I'm going to hand the podium over to Mrs. Stiles for consideration of Article 27.
Article 27. Shall the town of Hampton vote to discontinue parts of the 2 land areas that have been laid out as highways, totaling approximately 11,670 square feet, and to quitclaim any interest that the town may have in said 2 areas to the owners of the abutting properties as depicted on the A lot line adjustment plan by Jones and Beach Engineers, Inc., dated January 2010, and labeled as land to be deeded to the following abutting properties: either tax map 175, lot 10, the Galley Hatch Restaurant property, or tax map 176, lot 15, the Citizens Bank property, in return for the sum of $50,000 and with no damage to be paid by the town. Said discontinuance to be in accordance with the provisions of RSA 231:43 and with any and all public utilities, including drainage, preserved in their current location in accordance with RSA 231:46, and with quitclaim deeds of said 2 areas to be executed by the Board of Selectmen to the representative owners of tax map 175, lot 10, and tax map 176, lot 15, at no expense to the town. Majority vote required. And I would entertain a motion.
And second.
Lally, seconded by Baker.
I'd like to speak to this, if I may,
You may.
moderator. Could you put the map up, please? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is that good? Okay. This is another one of those issues, ladies and gentlemen, that has been obviously historical in town and has been here for many, many, many years. And this board is lucky enough to be able to deal with this, I guess. Winnicott Road, heading east to the beach. The triangle, here Route 1 south, Route 1 north. The property, the galley hatch so-called, right there. The area in question is the shaded area of the land that starts Winnicott, Route 1 rather, around the corner and east to in front of the Citizens Bank. Many, many years ago, it was owned, and it was a right-of-way by the railroad that come into the town of Hampton. And we're going back how many years, Mr.?
1890s.
It's the 1890s. So you can see how things can linger on. Over the years, obviously the character of the road, the character of the buildings, the businesses obviously have changed in 120 years. But problems still remain as to the layout, the property in the area. The depot used to be across the street here where the old Odyssey House is. Property was obviously bought and developed over the years, and the Tinius family had a small restaurant here. Mr. Tinius is in the audience, and he can, I think it was the Pepper Pot or something like that, one of the names.
Pot.
What was it?
Mustard pot.
Mustard Pot. Mr. Mike Tinius and his family owned it, and it was a successful business, and over the years, it was an addition to the building. Then there was another addition to the building. And as a matter of fact, there was a house that was in the parking lot there that now sits on Woodland Road that was moved by truck when that was bought back in the late 70s, I believe, and moved. A lot of changes have been on this corner. Over the years, through the additions and so forth, when the family and the holdings went before the town for various permits, and they were obviously granted, because you're not going to be able to put additions on like that without proper permits from the town. The town granted permits to the Tinius family, and you see a 33,000 square foot building. Now, over the course of time, when those permits were granted, the encroachments and the things were coming out further and further. Somehow, the powers that be at the time in the town, whether it be the planning or zoning or whatever, granted these permits. And I've been to the town, I put a few additions on my house, and when I get the permits they're granted, I build them. And it's been done a few times on my property. That's exactly what the Tinius family did here. It came to our attention when the Tropic Star Development Corporation was doing some building. They demolished their property owned the Hampton Cinema and entered into agreement with businesses such as CVS and some other businesses on this lot. Now, when the Tinius family, Tropic Star, was doing this property, they had to reconfigure parking spaces as per order of town and so forth, and in order to get certain permits. They were forced to change certain aspects of their development. In the course of these hearings with the planning board and so forth, it came to light that, well, wait a minute, you can't do certain things because you don't want to move here because this is town land, and you don't want to do this is town. You can't put your driveway here. You're going to have to move. Anyway, we could go on and on with this. Here's the problem that we have in the warrant article. This land that you see shaded belongs to the town of Hampton. The land is so many square feet, and on my glasses.
11,520.
11,000 square feet, roughly.
11,520.
Plus or minus.
Yeah.
11,670. As you can see by this land, it clearly, the value to the town, besides aesthetic or landscape value is nil. In negotiations with our assessor, our legal department, and town manager, and board of selectmen, we tried to come to an agreed value on square footage as far as price per square foot. And it varied from $2.50 to $10 and back and forth and so on. There was a negotiated price of $50,000 for this strip. I can speak as to my opinion that as town-owned land, what it does for the town is, I just don't know what it'd be worth to us as it sits. What it does for the property owner is obviously immense. There's certain sections of a corner of the building here and up at the other corner that actually sit on town property, as you can see where the icon is right there. This is a major issue to the property owner. When everybody that's ever run for selectman in this town, when they do their press release, they always say, we want to bring taxes down, and we live in a great town, and we have great police and fire and public works. And they all say the same thing, too, that we want to be pro-business. We want to be good to the business owners. We need more business in town, and so forth. And we all mean it. And I counted 8 former selectmen in the seats this afternoon, and they all meant it, too. So now we're faced with a problem here that many, many people don't want to have to face, which is when things are encroach on town-owned land, the town wants the land back. That's pretty fair. We want our land back. We want you to move off the land. This is one of those situations that I don't agree with that. I think that the Tinius family and the building that sits there and the property that's been improved from Winnicott 1A South down to the Catholic Church property and east on Winnicott to the Citizens Bank has been tremendously improved over the last 20, 30, 40 years by the Tinius family. I think the fair and equitable thing to do with this situation is for the town to agree to purchase, purchase the land, have Mr. Tinius purchase the land at a fair market price that we believe to be $50,000. The land as it sits and as it's configured would be, as far as buildable or anything to the town of Hampton, I don't see it. I don't see where we make out on the deal at all. I think we would be, the town would be good neighbors. The Tinius family have been good neighbors, and to enter into this, and I know for a fact that the Board of Selectmen is in favor of this. There's been many, many discussions, and I think it's time to move on it and move on. This thing could go on for many, many years. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think we have done our homework on this. I know there's been many, many hours spent on it, and I think it's equitable and fair for the town of Hampton. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak to Article 12? Mr. Tinius, are you a resident?
Pardon me?
Are you a resident?
No.
Okay, then I have to take a sense of the audience to make sure that they will allow you to speak. I would ask that if you are in favor of Mr. Tinius having the opportunity to speak, please raise your voter cards. Thank you very much.
Can I speak on behalf of my mother?
You can speak any way you'd like.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm not a resident of the town, but we've been doing business for 40 years as of July 6th in this town. My mother, who is a partner, is a resident of the town of Hampton. Last year, this was kind of deja vu, because last year we were talking about the same thing, only it was a little different. Where we were doing construction on the property, it was cost-effective back then to take a look at the public safety issue of that corner and try to make some improvements that we thought would not only enhance the public safety, but also the appearance of the corner itself. It was defeated narrowly. There was a yellow paper that went around that I think distorted the issue a little bit, and I don't think really the voters understood it. However, that being said, we're here today, and the issue has come up again. Obviously, our concerns are if this doesn't pass this time, what's the town's remedy? What are they going to do? I heard Jersey barriers from one end. I don't know if that's, this seems pretty ridiculous. The value to the town of this property, I don't know what it is, because it's a very narrow strip that borders Winnicott Road and a little strip that borders Route 1. The town put a park there, they put grass there, they take off a narrow strip, a corner of the building where the kitchen is. I don't think it would make sense. We've been good taxpayers for 40 years, and I honestly, after doing 7 expansions, going through numerous boards, 14, 16 boards that approved it time and time again, I'm not even sure why we're here today. But we are, so I hope that we come to a common sense conclusion with this. I do have concerns that this could perpetuate on, and we don't want that. I mean, we feel like we're community players and always have been, and continue to look at Hampton as a great place to do business, and a lot of friends here. So that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann?
Ann Kaiser, 7 Parma Street, Hampton. As Yogi Berra might say, this is deja vu all over again. I spoke in favor of a similar article last year when the Tinius family was gracious enough to offer to pay for a new intersection at Winnicott Road and Lafayette Road. The article failed, and I think it was because of the concerns about a T intersection, traffic lights there, and also a lot of people were afraid and spoke vehemently against giving up any town-owned land in this town. Well, I can't see the value of this land that the Tinius family and Citizens Bank are already using. I can't see any reason for the town to continue to hold on to this land unless we expect to get some stimulus funds to run a railroad track down to the beach again. We will be getting $50,000, which will pay for my article for mosquito control. Thank you very much.
Will.
And also, this will add to the taxable base of that land that is owned by the Tinius family now. So the town will continue to get additional income from this. I hope that the majority of the town agrees with me that this should pass and that the Tinius family should take over this land and give the town the $50,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Mark Lupley. I'm speaking neither for or against this article, but the way this article, if it passes, the way this is configured now, on the eastbound lane of Winnicott Road, it's going to greatly improve the safety. Because right now the cars are parked out past the telephone poles, and you need to pull into that lane to exit the parking lot, which is not good. So it's going to greatly improve the access onto Winnicott Road eastbound. Thank you.
Ms. Woolsey? I travel the spur road coming northbound on Winnicott and then turning east every day. Since the vote last year, any action on this matter has been stalled. I disagree with Ann Kaiser. I think we all need to look out for town land now and for the future. And I'm not in favor of just giving up town land. Once it's gone forever. The town has failed for years to address the traffic problem of vehicles exiting onto Winnicott Road and onto that spur road. There should have been Jersey barriers put up there a long time ago. I see no reason why, if the previous article passes, that the Board of Selectmen couldn't enter into a 5-year lease with the Galley Hatch to use that instead of giving away town land forever. What you might not care about too much today might mean a heck of a lot to those who live here in the future. Don't forget, we are all passing through. We are ripples on a pond that's 380 years old, and there will be people coming in the future, and I hate to deprive them of what this town owns now. I see no reason why the Board of Selectmen can't enter into a lease to accomplish this same purpose. What is the value of that land? I have no idea. What is the value of that land at auction? I have no idea. What is the value of that land in perpetuity to the citizens of this town? I have no idea. But I strongly suggest that the selectmen address the traffic that's there now that is extremely dangerous coming off that lot into the right-of-way on the eastbound spur and Winnicott Road, and try to come to some reasonable agreement with the business owner. We are proud of the Galley Hatch. We're proud to have it in Hampton. It's an excellent business. They do an excellent job, but it's our job to look out for the interests of this town. And as this article is structured, with the sale, I am absolutely opposed. Thank you. Okay, you have the paper? You want to read it first?
Okay. Gary Meyer, 4 Nercessian. This really speaks to all sales of all land. Sale to be open to, the language that I would add is sale to be open to at auction with a minimum price of $50,000, said auction to take place at a selectman meeting with public notice.
And do we have a second?
In order to, this addresses the issue of fair price, of whether 50,000 is right or fair price. The feeling is if the town's going to sell property, then anyone with the same terms and conditions should be able to buy the property. If the property has some other value that we don't know about, then the abutters could pay more than $50,000 to get the property. So it's a way to address the issue. How do you know that the $50,000 in the warrant is in fact a fair price? I say, you know, make it a...
Mr. Meyer, let me get a second first, please. Is there a second? Not seeing a second?
Good.
I have a question.
No, you have to second if you want to do it.
But I have a question about what you're proposing.
I think you have to second.
It's
It has
been,
to be seconded.
there was no second.
There was no second.
Yeah, you have to second it if you want to discuss.
Martha?
Martha Williams, 175 North Shore Road. Shame on us if we vote this down again. This land is worth nothing to this town, and the Tiniuses have been wonderful neighbors. I just don't understand why you can't build anything on it. You can't do anything else with it. I think we should vote for this, and I don't think they should have to keep coming to ask for it year in and year out. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator? Just
Yes.
one point, if I may. Just one thing I didn't bring up before. I think last year when it was on the ballot, too, it was all tied into the T and the traffic light and so forth. And a lot of people got up and talked about the traffic aspect of it that they were very upset about, and not about the land itself. So I think there was actually 2 different issues there last year in the warrant article, and I think it hurt the warrant article. The second thing I would say about an auction is it's a very, very slippery slope for an auction. I've been involved in some of those. You go in, and someone's there as a shill and jacking up the price to get it up, so it has no intention of buying it, but for one reason or another wants somebody else to get the bid up to a completely unreasonable space. So I would be totally against that.
Okay, and I'm going to, if you'd wait just one moment. Mark, you wanted to speak?
Yes, I wanted just to call attention to people that there's actually 2 parts to this article. The first part is to discontinue 2 land areas. This is town highway land, which was laid out in 1897 as part of the street railway per order of the New Hampshire legislature. And as such, it was laid out as highway. And so Highway land, unlike regular town-owned land, cannot be leased. We learned that the hard way from the New Hampshire Supreme Court in a 1983 case called Maroney versus Hampton, where the then selectman had leased some land for landscaping on a town road at the beach. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. It has to be discontinued first, so it no longer has the status of highway land. At that point, from the discontinuance, half the land would go to each abutter. But in this case, we're adding the second part, which is the sale of the land to the abutter, the part that's shaded there. Last year's article was approximately 20,200 square feet, where this one is 11,000. It adds up to 11,674 on the plan.
Thank you. Ron?
Madam Moderator, John Nyan, 4 Penniman Lane. Last year about this time, I made a mistake, and that mistake was I didn't speak in favor of the warrant and in support of the galley hatch. And the reason I didn't speak wasn't because I was against it. I just assumed that we had such a community member and a community family that this warrant was going to pass without a whole lot of issues. But surprisingly, when the town results came in, as we all know, it was defeated. So realizing that it's up again this year, I said to my wife this afternoon, I'd be damned if I don't speak in favor of his family, John's family, and the galley hatch. This is an issue, I think, and I can speak from a former business owner here where the galley hatch was a partner of mine for many years. But I don't want to speak about his business. I want to speak about a community person and a family in this community that has put a lot of time, effort, and money back into the community. And so when I see an article and I see the legal jargon, and I know that we have to go through this process, but I do want to encourage people to look at what he has and his family has done for this community. And I don't think these parcels of land, as Selectman Lally has said, it's only a small piece of land that the town will never be able to use. So I ask the voters of Hampton to pass this article and keep the businesses that we want to stay in Hampton, keep them here. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative.
Wrong town.
Promoted you. Sorry, Selectman.
Yes, I also am in favor of this, mainly because there isn't any other answer. Like Attorney Gerald has said, we can't turn around and rent this or lease it because it is highway land. And the galley hatch is probably the one thing I know in Hampton when I'm trying to explain to people to come to my business at the beach. You know where the galley hatch is? Go down that street, and everyone knows where the galley hatch is. This isn't going to hurt anybody else. The future of what can be done to the highway is not in jeopardy by disposing of this land. And I look at it that they have really improved the property, like Mr. Tinia said, at least 7 times. The most recent development where they've put in some new stores and whatever that's going to be there has really improved this piece of property. And I think that the town stands to collect the fruit of that improvement in the taxes that are going to be paid on these 11,600 square feet in the future. And I think it's only going to go up, 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 up as time goes on, and the future residents of the town are going to be protected by receiving that fruit that's going to come from those future taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann?
Ann Carnaby, Tide Mill Road. A little-known story back when the landfill was being capped and the property I now live in was jointly owned by myself and Michael Carnaby, the town came to us and said, oopsie, we've put landfill dirt on your land, and it represents a triangular piece of so by so by so. And would you therefore mind giving it to us? Because we don't want to have to move the dirt back. So in that instance, when the town encroached on private land, yes, we said, sure, we'll give it to you. So if the Tiniuses are offering the town now for land, money for land that they are inadvertently encroaching on, I think it's a good deal.
Thank you. Fred.
Fred Rice, 15 Heather Lane. I was on the planning board when the bank went in, and we discussed this piece of land extensively. And the entire board came to the conclusion that there's absolutely nothing we can do with that land, but we couldn't offer it for sale to the bank or to the galley hatch, the remainder of it, because that wasn't the issue for the planning board. The planning board only had to approve the plans. So as I recall, there was some type of either a formal easement granted or a tacit agreement that we recognized that this was going to be on that old strip of electric rail line that was in there, but we also had, the board collectively at that time had enough common sense to understand that there wasn't a single other thing in the world that could be done with it. You can widen it a little bit for traffic, but that isn't going to work. You can widen it a little bit the other way. You can't really effectively block it off. And I think that the people who say that, oh, we're going to give up our town heritage by giving away strips of land, we did the same thing down at the end of High Street, right in front of the restaurants down there at the end of High Street and Ocean Boulevard. And we voted to sell that strip, which was an otherwise unusable strip. It was like 4 or 5 feet wide and about 50 feet long or something like that, a long triangular shaped deal. And we had the common sense to say, look, if there's no value to the town, then let's do it. There are two things in physics. There's a thing called potential energy and kinetic energy. Potential energy is when you've got a bucket of water that's sitting up on a shelf up above you. It's not doing anything, it's not worth anything to anyone. Kinetic energy is when somebody tips the bucket over and it drops water on your head, and then you know you got something. Well, that's what we have here. Right now, that land is potential, and it has zero potential. It cannot be used. I would defy anybody to come up with a reasonable use that the town could ever make for it in the next century, for people who come after us. I defy anyone to come up with a reasonable suggestion as to what it could be used for. However, if it is sold, we get immediate income and we get ongoing income, and we do a little bit more to help a business in this town, which is what we should be doing. We should be underwriting businesses, not trying to throw phony challenges in their way.
Thank you, and it looks like the last speaker is Mr. Buck.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Sandy Buck, 5 Toby Street. I just want to rise as a former planning board chairman to speak in favor of this. If you take a look at the value of the land, which we've been talking about, or want to look at it from the value to the town, I think the town's getting a pretty good deal in this situation. Somebody can say, well, as somebody mentioned earlier to me in the back, what's my lot, my home value land assessed at? And I thought about that for a minute, and the value of the land is only what somebody is willing to pay for it, okay? This, in my observation, is not worth very much. And I can prove it. Somebody will say, well, it's prime downtown land. Yeah, well, right across the street from his property has been a vacant lot for a couple of years, and nobody's even nibbled at it. So I'm in favor of this, and if you would allow me, I would move the question.
Thank you. Seeing no one else and the question being moved, is that okay with the audience? Red pink cards, please, to move the question. Question has been moved. Therefore, Article 27 will appear on the warrant as printed.
Thank you, representative staff. Article 28, shall the town of Hampton vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the town to petition the New Hampshire General Court to enact the following legislation to create the position of tree warden for the town of Hampton, majority vote required. An act authorizing the town of Hampton to appoint a tree warden, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives and General Court convened. Section 1. Notwithstanding any general or special provisions of the law to the contrary, the Hampton Town Manager, with the advice and consent of the Hampton Board of Selectmen, shall appoint a tree warden who shall have the powers of tree wardens contained in New Hampshire RSA Chapter 231, 139, and amendments thereto. Section 2, the tree warden shall promulgate rules and regulations for the protection, preservation, maintenance, and removal of trees on public property that should become effective upon approval by the Hampton Board of Selectmen after said rules and regulations have been posted in 2 public places, followed by a public hearing, and upon being filed with the Hampton Town Clerk. Section 3, the tree warden shall be removable from office for misconduct after hearing before the Board of Selectmen, who shall certify that any such removal and the reasons therefore in writing to be filed with the town clerk, whereupon the tree warden shall be removed from office and the vacancy created filled by appointment in accordance with Section 1 of this Act. Section 4, this act shall take effective upon its passage. Note, if such act is enacted by the New Hampshire General Court, then the Town of Hampton Shade Tree Commission shall be abolished. The tree warden position will be combined with an existing position in the town, such as Director of Public Works, and will be at no additional cost to the community. I'll entertain a motion to open discussion on Article 28.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Zanoy, seconded by Mr. Griffin. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the article?
Mr. Mo-
Anyone on the Board of Selectmen wish to speak to the article? Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Skip Webb, Windmill Lane. Currently the only member of the Shade Tree Commission. And a lot of you are going to be upset because an historic commission would be removed from the town organization. Thus, you should know what has happened as far as that commission is concerned. For 3 years, the commission worked on a presentation of putting trees and a parkland into the High Street parking lot. That was basically ignored, and it was at the time when the parking lot was being repaved. People got discouraged and left. My wife was asked to continue to keep the commission going. She said yes. I'm in the position now because my wife and I had a pact that if at any time something happened to one of us, the one remaining would offer to complete the term that was committed to by the first one. She died on October 1st of last year. Sorry, 2 years ago. Since then, though, with her period and my period, we haven't had anyone else on the commission. And why? Both of us are honest. Both of us tell people what happened. When we tell them about the ignorance of the parking lot park, and we tell them that when you end up making reports, that those reports might not be honored or acted upon, you end up with people saying, no, I will not help. The selectmen have not come forward with people, even though one selectman said about 2 months ago that there are lots of people out there that are interested in doing such work. None of those have been forwarded to us. So basically, also, how the paperwork flows. There has been a policy change that people should know about. And I agree with that policy change. I don't believe that selectmen should be making decisions on whether a tree should come down or not. I don't think that their time is too valuable. So the policy change was that the commission send the reports to the Department of Public Works. We have been doing that. However, I have one limb that I know has been taken down. I know one oak tree that has been taken down. I have not had answers on my other reports. And I know from talking to people today that Mr. Ackroyd's request for a removal, Mr. Kepner's request for a removal, and the Recreation Towns Council request for a removal, they were thinking that I was delinquent in writing the reports. So I can tell all those people the reports have been written if you made a complaint, and they are in the hands of the DPW. Now, when we switch to a tree warden, you can see that effectively the Shade Tree Commission can be effective. It has not been due to lack of cooperation between the other town entities and the commission. We have a tree warden. A tree warden has to be a forester. I hope we have an employee that's a forester when you say that we are going to have an existing employee double up on the duties. The RSAs spell out what that tree warden has to do, and the RSAs say that the town is supposed to act on the tree warden's recommendations. Now, one of the first things that has happened every year for the 4 years that I've been involved with the shade tree, 3 of them not on the commission but typing their reports, was I've forgotten where I am, which is a bad thing, but I must admit it. The maintenance of the trees, so where I am now. Pruning has not been done in this town for those 4 years. Matter of fact, we received a directive each year at the beginning of the year that no pruning would be done. To my knowledge, no pruning has been done since I've been in this town, which is 11 years. And there has been what's called trimming. Trimming is done by the telephone companies. It's not proper pruning. It damages the trees. It makes them unhealthy over a period of time, whereas correct pruning makes a tree healthy. So I'm hoping that if we go to a tree warden, that it is a forester, that we are ready to finance what he's supposed to do as far as the trimming is concerned. And I want to make it plain that if the relationship between a shade tree commission and the DPW is strong, and we have a full commission, and those people are trained. My wife and I were sent to a training program We know how to prune trees. We know to tell if they're sick or not. We know how to plant a new one. That the town has fluctuation as far as the budget is concerned because the Shade Tree Commission has no budgetary process. The tree warden, however, does. I thank you for letting me provide the information. I'm just providing information for people to vote in either direction. I am mixed on the subject. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Go Ballin. We are now at the 6 o'clock hour, so we're going to pull out a play out of the old football playbook, the 2-minute drill. Okay. If you're at the podium, make your point, 2 minutes or less, and move on. If that proves problematic on any article, we'll address it. But we still have about a third of the business to get done, so please, if you would, 2 minutes or less. And to the Article 28, please.
Thank you, Moderator. Art Gopalan, 21 Mill Lane. I have two or three simple questions. Number one, what is propelling this article at this time? It seems like we are undertaking more work, and especially we are asking the state to do something. I thought that we already were afraid that the state is going to impose more mandates on us without having to pay for it. So that's number one. What's the incentive for us to look at a tree warden in a seacoast town? Second is, what is the pay and benefits associated with a position like this one? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gopalan. Is there anyone on the board? Mr. Welch. Mr. Moderator, let me try to answer the questions, Mr. Gopalan. The current law requires the state to appoint tree wardens, and they do not report to the town. They report to the state, to the Director of DRED, to the Commissioner. What the intent of this legislation is to remove that authority from the state of New Hampshire and invest it within the town of Hampton. One of the things that we've noticed, and I've certainly noticed in the short time I've been here, is that we constantly have emergencies to take down trees or to take limbs off of trees or to do tree work. And we don't have the funds to do it. We're trying to put together, through Public Works, a comprehensive program. And you need a comprehensive program to tackle the tree problems within the town. We need to put together some sort of a tree program for the entire community. All the town trees, not the private trees, but the town trees. They need to be maintained. They need to be removed when they're dead. They need to be taken care of during the course of the year. There would be no expense to this. It would be based in the Public Works Department. There is no statutory requirement, and I've got the statute right in front of me, RSA 231-139, that there be any person who has a degree to do this work. We hire those folks to advise us, and the state has people that we can hire through UNH to do that. We have them come in periodically to work with us. We're simply taking that control away from the state and investing it in the community, so you have control of it at a town meeting and not through a commissioner's office in Concord. Thank you, Mr. Welch. Mr. Moody, in 2 minutes or less.
We shouldn't be paying to prune trees that the utility companies should be pruning. The current statute is like just a tree warden as pertains to shade and ornamental trees on rights-of-way only.
And town property.
And town property?
And town property.
So this would include the cemetery too, which has all those pine trees, which are very fragile. Now, it says all the powers under this state statute on tree wardens, which now any person in town can write the commissioner to be appointed, I understand in that statute, as I remember. Yet in the next section, it says the tree warden will promulgate the regulations and the rules, which are going to pertain. There's rules and regulations in the statute, no doubt, like hearings at the site, when you're going to cut a tree, something like that.
Only on certain streets, sir.
On
Only on certain streets.
On certain streets. Well, I know that we've had issues at times with the Shade Tree Commission way back, and it was the town meeting that created the Shade Tree Commission. And I think one of the things we did was every tree you cut, you plant two. I think that's one of the things we voted, town meeting. And I noticed that 2 trees, stately trees, were cut in front of the CVS project last year in the town right away, and I haven't seen any trees planted there since.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Ms. Woolsey.
When you dispose of this article, Mr. Moderator, I want to move to waive the reading of the next 3 articles.
I'm with you on that. Any further comment? Article 28. Seeing none. Article 29. I'll entertain a motion to waive in the entirety, to waive reading in the entirety of Article 29, 30,
and 31.
And 31. All those in favor? Any opposed? Article 29. Would anyone on the Board of Selectmen like to address Article 29? I'll
Moving
entertain a
Article
motion
29
to open
ahead.
discussion on 29. Mr. Bateman, seconded by Mr. Lally. Mr. Bateman, do you wish to speak to Article 29?
In the interest of those, if you didn't pick up a pile of paper when you came in, this runs about 8 pages. It is legalese, but it is also a very important item for a number of us to be able to work with. It states all the necessary parameters for things such as dance hall, nightclub, entertainment activity, establishments, goes into it. And for the first time in our ordinances, it will hit every note just correctly, so that when we go in for some enforcement, we're going to actually be able to do it. It's interesting that in today's world, it takes 8 pages, but so if you can just consider when you are looking at it, and this is one of the, we made a promise that we would reduce the number of articles, no more 71s, et cetera, and no one ever wants to read all those that go on and on and on. But when you get to 29, I would appreciate it if you said yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman. Anyone else on the board? Seeing none. Anyone here? Mr. McFarland.
Mark McFarland, 3 Warner Lane. Maybe I just need clarification, or I didn't read one of the however many pages of this correctly. But when I go to section 3, perhaps I just need clarification. It says it shall be unlawful for any person to conduct, operate, hold, or host any entertainment activity within any building or premise within the town. It does not specify, and building is not defined to mean business anywhere. So that leads me to believe that, you know, a couple high school kids jamming in my basement need a permit should we have 5 people in there listening to them.
There are other aspects here that would not apply to them. You know, they're there for their own entertainment. This strictly looks at entertainment as a business. I don't think you're going to have that down in your, they used to call them the garage bands.
So I guess in order for me to feel comfortable with this, I'd have to amend this then, correct? Because as it stands now, that would be an unlawful activity in a private home based on this article, subject to the penalties and fines unless they had a $365 permit as entertainers. I'm just concerned with the vagueness of this.
Do you find this vague?
I'm looking at section 3, that's pretty vague to me. But I could amend that, correct?
You can.
It is the day for the citizen. So if you wish to amend,
Ms. Sanfi.
I'm concerned about this article because it seems to be overbroad. There's information here in section 1 where it says here, letter H, temporary entertainment license shall mean a license issued by the Board of Selectmen to any person to conduct an entertainment activity on a specific date for a specific period of time at a specific location. Then if you, go to section 4, it would mean that this person would have to obtain from the board written recommendation from the chief of police, written notification from the fire prevention officer, and that the premises in which the entertainment activity shall be held holds a valid assembly permit and dance hall permit, that written notification from the building inspector or their designees that the premises in which the entertainment activity shall be held holds a valid occupancy permit, and the license fee. The reason I question this is every year our family gets together at the VFW hall, and we rent that out for Christmas for our Christmas family outing. So in this, it sounds as though I will have to go through all of this in order to just do a gathering for a family party with entertainment if we have entertainment there?
private party. It is a private party if you are in your private home.
But this is in the VFW.
It's a private party. It's a hall,
Right.
but it is rented by you. You are not an ongoing business. You would not fall through all of this. If you're having a wedding reception at your house, you may want to make friends with your neighbors, because if you're going to be having the, a band, et cetera, out under the tent, that's already in place. This is...
I'm just concerned that there's a lot of language in here. This is a very, very long article. And understanding it,
as I said from the beginning,
I think is going to be difficult for a lot of people in the town, unfortunately, because we tend to have a problem with people reading the articles all the way through and understanding them. You're saying that basically this is not going to pertain to a any private entity, even...
Moderator, is that okay? Mr. Moderator, I might have an answer for that.
Yeah, Mr. Lowry.
Ma'am, Section 1 under D, I think you have to read through the definitions first. And under D, it's establishment of place and what that means in this statute. It shall include, but not limited to, bars, cafes, discotheques, nightclubs, performing arts center, motion picture theaters, dance halls, music hall, lecture hall, restaurant, or any other establishment. This is basically a commercial statute. In no way, I think the average person would think that you couldn't have your kids practice in your basement, or you couldn't have a family party. It's basically, just go by what the definitions are in the statute, and it should spell it out.
could we change that to...
Sanford,
oh, sorry.
I understand you're raising concerns about the terminology. We've got, I think, an amendment in the offing from Mr. McFarland, who wants to clarify that it's for business and commercial purposes.
Okay.
So instead of picking apart 8 pages of it, I think the message that you're sending to the voters is that you've got concerns about whether this has been thought out and is really as narrowly tailored as it should be.
Yes.
Which I would gather is your suggestion that it be voted down. Why don't we let Mr. McFarland try to address an amendment and see where it takes us.
All right, thank you.
See what the group says here. Mr. McFarland?
So on section 3, by simply inserting operating an establishment, as establishment is defined in the article, it excludes personal dwellings, et cetera, et cetera.
It's defined under D in Section 1. Establishment or place is as defined.
Right, but in that section 3, it says any person hosting.
Right.
In any, it does not say in an establishment there. On section 3, it says, it shall be unlawful for any person to conduct, operate, or hold. It does not say anything about, it just says within any building or premise within the town. It doesn't say, it doesn't use that word establishment, which is
Mr.
defined.
McFarland has presented me with an amendment to section 3 of this article, and where he seeks to insert in the first line of section 3, after the word person, parentheses, operating an establishment.
Right, so you don't need the parentheses, but insert those words.
So the first line of section 3 would read, it shall be unlawful for any person operating an establishment.
Right, because establishment is confined,
To
is
conduct.
defined as those businesses.
Okay?
Good, that's good.
Do I have a second on that amendment? Second by Mr. Bates. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's take it.
I thought she was going tonight. Nathan Page, Drakeside Road. I have, hopefully this will be a quick clarification.
You're speaking only
to
to
the amendment.
The amendment.
The amendment. With the amendment, does that transpose to a church supper with entertainment? Is that exempt from this article? The American Legion Hall having, renting out for a Christmas party or something that has are they having a fundraiser supper or something with entertainment? The Historical Society uses the Masonic Lodge building, and they have entertainment as
Place
a
of public
fundraiser.
assembly.
So those would have to have a license, or would that be?
No.
So that would require those organizations to all get an assembly. They already pay for an assembly permits. Would this be an added layer? No. I'll get a shake of head no.
Mr. Moderator? I guess I'm shaking my head no, because the answer is no.
Okay.
If you're not a continuing business that does any of those activities, in essence for profit, or as a ongoing business and activity, then you don't need to be licensed. This replaces the dance hall entertainment license that we have now, which doesn't allow the town to do anything. If you decide that you're going to put 50,000 decibels of music in your building and open all the windows and doors as an establishment downtown, there's nothing much we can do about that.
You could
This
charge people
controls
at the
it.
beach then.
We've
All right,
got
thank you.
noise provisions in here.
All right.
What we did is we went through and we looked at the ordinances in a number of cities and towns and tried to curtail all the complaint issues that we have and make sure that we have proper licensing and proper fees.
Yeah, another gentleman I on the back would say, does this affect us in his church supper and my little function? So I
No,
just want to
not
make
at all.
sure that we're all set. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call Mr. McFarland's amendment for a vote. All those in favor of the McFarland amendment, which adds that language in blue to this provision, raise your voter cards, down cards. Any opposed? The McFarland amendment has passed. Mr. Moody, do you wish to speak to the McFarland, to the article as amended?
I'm just wondering if, does this replace the dance hall $50 permit, dance hall ordinance?
Yes.
That rescinds that.
Yes.
Is there anything in this voluminous ordinance that gives a seasonal rate instead of $365 a license?
No.
No seasonal?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Seeing nothing further, Article 29 will appear on the warrant as amended. Article 30, we have waived the reading of the entire article, but I will entertain a motion to open discussion on Article 30.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bateman, seconded by Mr. Lally. This is a taxi regulation. Mr. Bateman, would you wish to speak to Article 30?
If you take a couple of minutes to read through, or if you have, we discussed this several times at our meetings. We have literally, at this point, minuscule enforcement for any taxi business. This is a compilation which has safeguards. Safeguards for individuals, the kind of vehicle that you will be in, that it will be in good shape. It will be, well, hepatitis is a very interesting disease. You like to make sure that when you get in, it's clean. There is nothing says in anything we have now that if a taxi cab is loaded with something, they have to do anything. They don't have to clean it, they don't have to do anything. It also has a section in it in reference to the owner and the individuals who drive. And knowing the background of those individuals becomes important. These are, again, guidelines that are usable in many communities around us. We have not had it. It's been noted that we do not have it, and through efforts for the town manager, the compilation was brought forward.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Article 30.
I think we need, Mr. Moderator, I think the, in Article 30, the word ordinance is misspelled. It's a minor point, but we're missing an E. I would move to spell it correctly. Add the letter E to the word ordinance for the regulation of taxi businesses.
That's in the title, sir.
Yep.
Title.
Can we handle that administratively, or is that a motion?
Well, I've made a motion to make it official.
All right. Mr. Zanoy has moved to add an E to the title so that ordinance is properly spelled. Seconded. All those in favor? Down cards. Mr. Lally seconded it. All opposed? On to Article 31. I'll entertain a motion to open discussion on Article 31. Moved by Mr. Lally, seconded by Mr. Bateman. Who would like to speak to the littering ordinance, Article 31?
You want to do that?
The present littering ordinance has some difficulties. This, again, has been an updated situation. It addresses a number of facts that we're able to use. And in the end, when it's this tight, what it turns out to be is a moneymaker for the town, because we can write under the town ordinance for littering, and those donations come to the town. Again, this is, again, a housekeeping situation, but we need to have it on hand.
Anyone further wish to be heard on Article 31? Mr. Moody.
Does it say in here anywhere that it's a violation level offense?
Section 22, page 27.
Page what?
Page 27. Hoping that you have the same.
Pardon?
There's on page 27, there's section 22, violation.
Section 22. So there are many statutes on littering, and some are even misdemeanors, like littering on a road to the beach, which pertains in this town. I'm just wondering will the police still have options?
There's an option to use the town order. There's an option to use the state form.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Anyone else on Article 31? Mr. Rice.
First of all, in answer to Mr. Moody's question on page 29, I believe is the place where the violation is. It says penalties. Any person or persons violating the provisions of this ordinance shall be guilty of a violation and subject to blah, blah, blah. So that's in there. I have a related question, just a quick one. We're passing ordinances on littering and so on and so forth, and I'm all in favor of those. I'm all in favor of any of the things that keep us clean. I'd just like to know whatever happened to the warrant article that was passed last year that called for the placement of a new town policy that passed very handily to require the placement of recycling containers in any gathering more than 25 people. There has been absolutely nothing. This board has done absolutely nothing. Neither the manager, the board, anybody in town has done anything to implement that. I have not seen an announcement, a requirement. I have been to many, many, many gatherings, asked the people in charge of it, did anybody ever tell you need to have recycling stuff out here? None. I'm just curious. It's just a related thing.
Mr. Welch.
Mr. Moderator, everyone that has approached us and held an activity and informed us of that activity, where there are 25 or more people, we put them in touch with Waste Management, who has been willing to provide them with the necessary containers for recycling. And on quite a number of occasions, in fact, people have done that. It hasn't been something that we've publicized of that nature, but we have had a lot of folks, because of the warrant article, come in and ask us about it, and we referred them, and Waste Management has supplied the
I just think it'd just be a good idea if that way it was publicized to let people know and remind them. It's an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything further on Article 31? Seeing none, Article 31 will appear on the ballot as printed. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of Article 32 in its entirety due to its length. Moved by Mr. Lally, seconded by Mr. Nichols. All in favor? Raise your voter card, please. Down cards. Motion to open discussion on Article 32, moved by Mr. Nichols, seconded by Mr. Griffin. Is there someone on the board who would like to speak to Article 32? Mr. Nichols.
Yes. Basically, this is just housekeeping. There are two elements to it. First bullet relates to rules associated with dogs on the beach. There are actually two current sections that address that. They're ambiguous with one another. And what the first part of this does is essentially eliminate one of them and leave the rule that's in Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 1(3) regulation. That happens to be the regulation that is the one that's posted, for example, at Browns Beach and whatever. The second bullet in this article simply designates that all town beaches in the town of Hampton shall be designated as carry-in, carry-out requiring persons using the beaches to take all trash with them for proper disposal upon leaving the beach, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Anything further on Article 32? Seeing none, Article 32 will appear on the ballot as printed. Article 33, as petitioned, on petition of Gary J. Pohl and of at least 25 additional registered voters, we the following petition the town of Hampton to accept Lion Street, Francis Street, and William Street as public roads, and such roads to be accepted, quote, as is, end quote, and without of any damage by the town. These paved streets have sewer water and have always been maintained by the town. By accepting these streets, it will not affect the tax rate, as these streets have always been maintained by the town. Majority vote required. I'll entertain a motion to open discussion on Article 33. Moved. I need your address, please, ma'am, and your name. 45 Exeter Road. Kathleen Jackson, 45 Exeter Road. Thank you. Do you have a second on that? Seconded by Mr. Nichols. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this article, Article 33?
I have an amendment, sir.
Mr. Nichols? Or
I can speak after the amendment.
Mr. Lally?
Okay. The amendment would read, and I move to amend Article 33 by placing the word payment after the word without in line 3 of the article as printed in the warrant to correct it typing error and to strike the last paragraph of the article.
Is there a second to Mr. Lally's amendment? Mr. Nichols has seconded the Lally amendment, which inserts the word payment so that it says to be accepted as is and without payment. And then the last paragraph is stricken per the Lally amendment. Do you wish to speak to that, Mr. Lally? Or Mr. Nichols?
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to do that? Sure.
Yeah, I'll comment. I'd just like to comment that when we saw this last statement, by accepting these streets, it will not affect the tax rate, as these streets have been always maintained by the town. Excuse me. We asked the Public Works Director to take a look at those streets and give us some feedback as to whether or not there would be a cost, were they properly maintained, or whatever. So I would ask that Public Works Director come to the podium and give us his comments on that.
Mr. Price?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have prepared a list of some problems that we have with the streets. I believe there is a drop to come up, I hope. Well, in the meantime, there's quite a few items that have to be addressed if the town were to accept these streets. The paved road service on William Street area is inconsistent in the width and the grade. The paved surface is showing moderate signs of cracking and deterioration. There are numerous patch repairs that make up the road surface. There is a little or no reveal along the concrete sidewalks on the west side of the street. The sidewalk does not conform to the minimum width as allowed by state specifications. That's on William Street. On Wyan Street, the paved surface is inconsistent in width. There is an extensive alligator cracking and rutting of the paved surfaces, which leads me to believe that the base material is inadequate, contaminated, or does not meet specification. The road profile is inconsistent and does not allow for water to shed off the surface. The thickness of the asphalt is only 1 inch in 2 separate areas that we were able to check. This is a substandard to the town or state road specs. This road is in serious need of being reclaimed and reconstructed. Gravel shoulders are higher than the road surface, which does not allow the proper runoff. Because of the water stays in the road, it's saturating the base materials. Without core sampling of the thickness and depth of the materials, as well as an analysis of the base materials, that this is the best that we can do at this time to inform you. On Francis Street, at least 95 feet of this road is not paved. There is a set of concrete stairs at number 1 Francis that protrude onto the town's right-of-way. Most properties have paved the frontage of their properties to allow for additional parking on the road. This has narrowed the travel surface to about 25 feet right away down to 12 feet. Most areas and does not allow for snowbanks when the street is plowed. Moderate amount of substandard patching and repairs showing signs of distress. Shoulders have been built up which with pavement or loom, which keeps the water in the travel lane and which may lead to premature failure of the road surfaces.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Anything further on Article 33? Mr. Moody.
I'm pretty sure the statutes in RSA 674 or whatever on roads, for these roads to become a public road, they have to go to the planning board first. Read the statute. These roads aren't on any official map because we don't have an official map of the town, thank heavens. And eliminating all the other ways to become a Class 5 road, it comes down to going to the planning board, and the planning board approves, town meeting gets a majority vote, and if they disapprove, it's a 2/3 vote. I remember the statute.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Anything further on Article 33? Seeing none, Article 33 will appear as amended. Article 34, as petitioned, on petition of William E. Armstrong and of 25 or more other legal voters of the town of Hampton, to see if the town will vote to modify the disability exemptions from property tax in the town of Hampton for qualified taxpayers to be as follows. The taxpayer must have a net income of not more than $38,000 from $21,000, or if married, have a combined net income of not more than $58,000 from $30,000, and own net assets not in excess of $250,000, excluding the value of the taxpayer's residence, whether single, from $50,000 or married, from $75,000. The total exemption shall be $125,000 from $41,000. To qualify, the person must have been a New Hampshire resident for at least 5 years, own the real estate individually or jointly, or if the real estate is owned by such person's spouse, they must have been married for at least 5 years. Majority vote required. I'll entertain a motion to open discussion on Article 34. Anyone who wishes to move Article 34 for discussion? Moved by Mr. DeMarco. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Nichols. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to Article 34? Mr. Nichols.
Yeah, I'd like to give a little bit of history. Roughly about a month ago or so, maybe 6 weeks, we received a request, which, quite frankly, was tough to interpret, whether it was intended as a warrant article or a request to increase the disability exemption. We looked at it and we decided it was a good thing to do, so we actually came up with our own selectman-sponsored warrant article, which addressed all of these same issues, and then at the last minute, within, I would guess, well within a week of the cutoff date for warrants, this particular petitioned article that you see showed up. We looked at that and we said, you know, it just doesn't make sense for us to put ours forward and theirs. It will just confuse the public. Two articles addressing the same thing. So we essentially pulled our article, and this is what we have. I would like to direct a question to a combination of the town manager and the town attorney. Is there anything in this language that we might want to amend for the purpose of helping to assure that the legalities are addressed in this particular issue?
I think so. Yeah. I think, Mr. Moderator, it meets all the minimum requirements of that statute.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Welch. Mr. Nichols, in light of that, anything further?
Nope.
All right. Anyone else wishing to be heard on Article 34? Seeing none, Article 34 will appear on the ballot as printed. Article 35, as petitioned. On petition of June M. White and of 25 or more registered voters, the town of Hampton shall vote to sell 152 square feet of the property on the south side of Boston Ave, abutting homeowner's property located at 8 River Ave to homeowner. There is a strip of land 6 to 9 feet wide between homeowner's property line and Boston Ave. Homeowner is looking to purchase 4 feet of this strip, running 38 feet, which is the length of the lot at 8 River Ave. The town will receive money for this strip of land, and homeowner will pay extra taxes every year. Homeowner will maintain this area, which is currently not maintained by the town. The land would be of no value to anyone else. Majority vote required. Entertain a motion to open discussion on Article 35. Have a motion? We've got the motion on the floor right now. Do I have a motion by Mr. Guthrie? Is anyone seconding it? Seconded by Ms. Woolsey. Is there anyone who would like to speak to Article 35?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I would just a point. I would ask the petitioner, is this land or any part of this land subject to a suit currently in court?
Are you the petitioner, ma'am? Okay. Can you answer Mr. Lally question?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I don't feel comfortable discussing this then.
Okay. Well, it's on the warrant, and it's up for discussion by this body.
It's in court. It's in Superior Court.
Well, this warrant article is on this warrant, and you don't have to participate in the discussion, but it is on the warrant. And does the petitioner wish to speak to her article?
I'd like to amend.
Okay.
The first part will go right after the first paragraph.
Why don't you explain what you want for, where, do you have a copy of this as well?
I don't.
All right, so why don't you first explain to us the nature of your amendment, we'll seek a second, and then we'll discuss the amendment.
Sure. At the very end of the first paragraph, I just wanted to add, in return for the value of property to be determined by the... At the end of the first paragraph, I wanted to say, in return for the value of property to be determined by the current value of abutting land and with no damages to be paid by the town. And then at the very end of it, to also add, and at no expense to the town.
Is there a second to that amendment? Seconded by Mr. Guthrie. Let's get this amendment up on the screen so everyone can. Second language is to the second.
It's right at the very, the land would be of no value, right?
Right after the else period.
So right down at the bottom?
Yep.
Ms. White, is that how you intend to amend the article? The underlined portion being the amended?
Yes.
Okay, would you please speak to the amendment?
Can I just show here on this, I did a little, this is Ocean Boulevard, this is Boston.
Why don't you show the people in the room?
This here, the blacker streets, this is Ocean Boulevard, Boston Ave, River Ave. This here is my home. This is a driveway on each side. This is town-owned land in the white with a stripe. And this little black section right here is what I'm looking to purchase.
Mr. Guthrie, may I have this up here so that I can show it to the selectmen? Go ahead.
I have a driveway on that side of my house, and we recently did a lot of work on the property, and there is some crushed stone, you may have heard this, and some flower pots that I put there, as well as 2 rows of pavers. It's about 4 feet. I was told by the town to remove it, and we are in court over it now. I would just like to purchase that property. Nobody uses it. And it wouldn't benefit, just like the galley hatch, anyone else but me.
Thank you, Ms. White. Anyone else wishing to speak to the White amendment? Mr. Guthrie.
Hi, my name is Andrew Guthrie, Boston Ave, Hampton. First of all, I'm amazed that one of the selectmen said what he did say when the galley hatch was voted on last year, and they were told to more or less get off the land, and it's on a highway. I think the galley hatch should have it, and I voted for that, and I would. And I don't see any problem with that. But here, what's the difference? Because there's a court case because the town decided to enforce it, not against a business, but a single woman that has really made her property beautiful. Anybody wants to go down and see 8 River Ave, it's a beautiful property on the beach. All she's asking for is 4 by, I forget what it is, 4 by 38 feet of land. And the town has said that's a sidewalk. Drive down there. You know what's right in the middle of what they say is a sidewalk? Telephone pole. It's right there, plunk, right in the middle. But yet they're saying that's a sidewalk. No one can use it. Wheelchair goes down there, they gotta go out into the street. But it's a sidewalk. Well, then move the pole if you want to say it's a sidewalk. I'm all for this amendment. I don't even know why June said that the price should be as much as she did. We're talking 152 feet. The town's willing to give 11,562 feet out for 50 grand. I told June, hey, ask for 50 bucks. But, you know, I just hope that the town does vote for this.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. We've got a number of people lined up here, so let's try to stick with our 2 minutes or less, unless there's an issue. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. My name is Lenny Paul. I reside at 23 Whitten Ave, and just my comments on this article, that I'm in favor of it. I myself have seen the property. I look at it every day. It's just, I mean, there wasn't even a sidewalk there in its place. The 4 feet that's involved by the length of the property, like I said, it can't be used for anything. This is no different, in my opinion, from Article 27 with the galley hatch. It's going to beautify the area, in my opinion, and even I've heard about this court case coming up on it. This is just a perfect example, I'm sorry, Mark, but a waste of your time and a waste of our taxpayers' money suing for this problem of the flower pots being on that property. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Is anybody, Mr. Scanlon?
This is just a simple property rights, quiet enjoyment issue. There's absolutely no value of this land to the town. All the infrastructure work is done in that section of the beach for the next 100 years, knock on wood. And it's the right thing to do, and it's a win-win situation for the town. It will increase our property value. 2 years ago, this deliberative session moved an article forward for Ms. White to rebuild her home, add a second story, and it's a beautiful property. The bottom line is it would eliminate a lawsuit. It would put, you know, other assets of the town to better use, and it's a win-win situation. And the civil thing to do would be to try and have something settled out of court and allow the voters to decide if Mrs. White can buy this land. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. Anyone else over here want to be heard? Mr. Gaethel?
Just David Gaethel, 23 Ridgeview Terrace. Just a question of the petitioner. Is there a sidewalk there now? Is there a sidewalk laid out there? And I'm pretty sure there's now a minimum width for a sidewalk under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And in selling this land, will it make that area too narrow to have a legal sidewalk?
Ms.
Three
White,
questions, really.
Mr. Gaethel asked a question relative to a sidewalk in front of your property.
You want to repeat them, or would you like me to?
I think the question was whether there is an existing sidewalk in front of your property right now.
On the side where
If you could speak into the microphone.
No, there isn't. There's no sidewalk there. There never has been.
Right. My question to the town then is there a right-of-way there for a sidewalk? No. No.
With this land gone, there would be no right-of-way for a sidewalk.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Nichols and Mr. Gerald.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the amendment. I think the fact that June made an amendment is a good thing, because one of the issues I had is how much...
You need a microphone.
Sorry. One of the issues I had is how much, or who determines what the sale price is if the voters approve it. And while I think what she's got up there makes some progress, I don't think to simply say, I wish the warrant article were up there so I could read the amendment, but to simply say that it's going to be, the price is going to be determined by abutting properties, it's not that simple. You get into formulas, you get into land curves, 2 acres isn't worth twice as much as 1 acre, et cetera. What you've actually created is a parking space by virtue of that land. What is the value of a parking space? So I believe that should the voters pass this, there's going to be a lot of contention relative to the process of establishing the value, and it needs to be more concise. That's one of the reasons why, in the case of the galley hatch, we made it very simple for people to understand, $50,000.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Mr. Gerald, and then we're going to take a vote on the White Amendment.
Okay, just so we're clear on the context of this, can you click back to where you were? Okay, this is a Blaisdell survey foundation, a footing certification that was filed with the building department by Ms. White back in 2006. This is a document that was shown in the court case which June White brought against the town, having to do with the town's positions before suit brought by her, that there had been areas of disturbance at 4 different locations of town pavement without any excavation permit, without any driveway permit. The area in question here for this article is the long one up there at the top, which is a looped area along Boston Avenue. This was an area where there were 4 different vehicles that were being parked perpendicular to the building, partially, obviously, because of the length of vehicles onto town property. Now, this is town highway property, by the way, and highway property by statute, you can't get eminent domain, you can't get, adverse possession against a town. No matter how long you use it by statute, you can't get, town property isn't subject to adverse possession. So what Ms. White did in 2008 was, without any permits, she dug out a section on River Avenue and made it so that the entranceway was from River Avenue. And moreover, and want to show the next slide, please. As you can see there, installed a large area of pavers as well as these potted plants. And the pavers, more than even the plants, is a problem because those are permanent encroachments on town property. And as highway property, this is not even being asked to be discontinued. So you can't sell highway property unless it's discontinued.
Thank you, Mr. Gerald. Let's move and see where we end up on the White Amendment. Ms. White has submitted an amendment to Article 35. It's the underlined language. All those in favor of amending Article 35 so that it will include the underlined language, raise your red voter card. Down card. All opposed? I'm going to ask my assistants to help me take a count, please. Get to deal with this one first.
Same sections. Hey, Bob, could you clarify if this is the for vote or the opposed vote?
Yeah, if you're voting in favor of the White Amendment, you're voting to add the underlined language. All those in favor of the White Amendment to add the language that's underlined on the screen, raise your voter card and keep them up so that the assistants here can take a count. Down cards.
Three. Did anybody count the stage?
There was nothing on the stage.
There's nothing on the stage, okay.
All right, all those, get my assistants ready here. Ready to take the vote in the negative. All those opposed to the White Amendment, that would be voting against adding that underlined language. You raise your cards.
What do you have? Three.
Nathan, somebody get the stage here.
Stage?
There's one in the back that you, I don't think you counted them.
I got the one.
There's one behind.
You gotta get those?
You get 7?
The results are 21 in favor of the White Amendment, 22 opposed. The White Amendment fails. We're back to the article as it is printed, Article 35 as it is printed. I see nobody at the no one at the podium. Do we need any further action on Article 35? Mr. Guthrie.
I'd like to amend it as it was, but to put a dollar value, $1,000 as a value for the property.
So at the end of the first paragraph, would we say to the homeowner for $1,000?
No, like if they just hit Control Z, everything else will come back up, and then instead of having the value of what the abutting property is, it'll be $1,000. The same amendment as written before.
Oh, we've already handled the amendment.
No. I'm going to be putting a price in as Dick Nichols suggested.
Yeah, that's the rule. Put it in writing, Mr. Guthrie. You're starting with Article 35 as it appears in the warrant. I don't have it on the screen, sir. I believe Ms. White.
No, she handed it in.
But Mr. Guthrie, I would strongly urge you not to put the same language that this body just voted down.
40 times 300 square feet.
$7,000.
Did you do
Mr. Guthrie, is that how you intend your amendment to read?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second to Mr. Guthrie's amendment? Mr. Gebhardt seconds. Would you like to speak to the amendment, Mr. Guthrie?
I was just hoping that this would make it more palpable to the town if they had a sum, as Mr. Nichols had suggested.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard on the amendment? Guthrie amendment. Seeing none. All those in favor of the Guthrie amendment, which would add the underlined language, so he has inserted a sum certain. All those in favor of the Guthrie amendment, raise your voter card. Excuse me?
You can't see it, so what does it read?
As on the petition of June M. White and 25 or more registered voters in the town of Hampton shall vote to sell 152 square feet of the property on the south side of Boston Avenue, abutting homeowner's property at 8 River Ave, to homeowner in return for the sum of $1,000 and with no damage to be paid by the town. And then at the end, the value of the land would be of no value to anyone else and no expense to the town. So the gist of the amendment is to put a price of $1,000 on this land. All those in favor of the White amendment, the Guthrie amendment, please raise your voter card. Down cards. All opposed? All right, let's count this again, please, Dennis.
They're counting me in favor of.
All set? So all those in favor of the Guthrie amendment, please raise your voter card and keep it raised until you get a signal from the assistant moderator counting your section. All right, down cards. All those opposed to the Guthrie amendment, raise your voter card.
Put your cards down. I think they're up there. You can put them down, Glenn.
We knew you had a practical side, Nathan.
As before, there's a one-vote margin. 25 in favor of the Guthrie amendment, 26 opposed. The Guthrie amendment has failed. We are back.
Mr. Moderator, can I just have a point of, I have a question or clarification. Mr. Lally, Selectman Lally said earlier how the selectmen are in litigation with this issue. I submit that they shouldn't vote either way on this.
Point noted, and if I didn't feel they should vote, I would have restricted them. Anything else on Article 35?
Bob, I would like to suggest an amendment on the price.
We can try a third amendment on this article, but I need it in writing, and I'd like to have it sooner than later.
It's going to say it has to do with the tax assessor.
You know, I don't know we're coming up with these figures.
The language that appears as blue as you intend your amendment.
Yes.
Is there a second to the Nichols amendment? I have a second. Seconded by Mr. Bacon. You wish to speak to the amendment, Mr. Nichols?
I think it's pretty straightforward. I know what we went through to arrive at a value on the Galley Hatch property. It originated with the assessor. I think there's a much better chance at arriving at a logical, fair market value if it's done by a professional who that's their business.
For those in the back, the amendment to Article 35 simply is to have the property price to be determined by the assessor. further discussion on the Nichols amendment?
Just a brief comment about the futility of this thing. We're looking at the chance to either get $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, for a little piece of land of 150 square feet. If you took that out to the acreage cost, I think we'd be making a killing on the thing, getting more than our money's worth. And what's the alternative? The alternative is to stay with a lawsuit that is going to have Mr. Gerald at $92 an hour probably spend the next 3 weeks on. I mean, this is dumb not to do this. Let a small piece of land go. Why not take in $2,000 instead of spend 10 grand?
Anything further on the Nichols amendment? Seeing none, we will vote on the Nichols amendment. Yes? All those in favor of the Nichols amendment, raise your voter card. Someone get the stage.
It still doesn't say to discontinue it, Dick. I said that it didn't say that. It's to say.
Want to write another amendment?
I don't want to write it.
It doesn't say what it needs to say.
All those, down cards, all those opposed to the Nichols amendment to add the shaded language. All those opposed, raise your voter card. I put these folks to work this time. I'm glad we could agree on something. The Nichols amendment passes. Article 35 is as amended. Let's move on to Article
Bob,
36.
there was one other issue which Attorney Gerald pointed out earlier that had to do with the fact that it doesn't say to discontinue, what was it, Mark, town highway land?
Yes.
So I think what we're saying is that it's Attorney Gerald's interpretation that this is not legal anyway. So is there an amendment that could be made to make this legal, Attorney Gerald?
We did this language to discontinue in both the galley hatch, Article number 27, and the access road number 26.
Do you realize, Mr. Moderator, that it's hard for us to hear in the front row, and God knows what they're hearing in the back?
Mr. Nichols has raised the point about whether this needs to be, whether further amendments need to be made. And candidly, Ms. Woolsey, at this hour, if there's an amendment to be forthcoming, we've already done 3. We need to have it. So if you want to make an amendment, please do so
I don't
now.
wish to make the amendment, but at least we've advised the petitioners.
And I don't want to cut anybody's right from doing that off, but we are where we are. We've had 3 amendments. Excuse me?
Do you have time for another one?
You got to be at the podium, and let's move on.
Mr. Moderator, may I make an amendment to discontinue the highway?
You need to follow the rules of the meeting. Read it in writing. It's not my time, Mr. Guthrie. It's everybody's time here that is at stake. So let's tighten up the procedures, and if there's further amendments. No, I can't, Mr. Guthrie. I'm not in a position to
Told him to look at it.
She has an attorney.
Yeah, I know.
I think they're.
Put that in front of the other one. If I could add that right to the front of this, after as petition on petition of June White and 25 more registered, the town of Hampton shall.
I'll put this here.
Yeah.
Moderator, I believe the second line should be 152.
You're correct, Mr. Wright.
Close enough for government work. Yeah, and those have a meeting if I move. Allergic to. I'm allergic to dust mites, and I'm not sure if that has something to do with it.
Allergies change.
enjoy having a dog. Bothering me here.
Mr. Guthrie, the administrative assistant has added the language that you've asked added to the article. Do you wish to speak to that?
The one thing is, I guess I have the 1, 2, 3, third line down. Should that be total in 152? I probably wrote that very quickly. About 16 precedents have been laid out as highway total in 152.
Show the town of Hampton 152 with the
Do I have to introduce myself?
Would you speak to the...
Okay. First, I'd like to thank the board for its help, and maybe this will save some town money on a future suit. If this gets passed, maybe we can all go home and forget about it. So I hope everybody votes for it. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Mr. Moody.
Mr. Moderator, I'm going to rise to a point of order that former moderator who shares your name would allow. I point out the fact that all matters in the warrant, Selectmen's warrant, has to be specified in the warrant. And discontinuing of a public road has not been specified in this warrant, and is therefore illegal.
Mr. Moody, anyone else? Yes, Mr. Work.
Jim Workman, Winnicott Road. I'll be very brief. Not a whole lot on the amendment itself, but I do want to correct the misstatements and the fallacy that this is somewhat, if this article passes, it'll be a panacea that'll resolve the court suit. They are unrelated.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no one else, let's have a vote on the Guthrie amendment. The Guthrie amendment is the underlined portion that seeks to add language. Mr. Guthrie has moved to add language as underlined to Article 35. All those in favor, raise your voter card. Down cards. All opposed. The Guthrie amendment has passed. And we are going to move on from Article 35 to Article 36. And Article 35 will appear on the warrant as amended. Article 36, on petition of June M. White and of 25 or more registered voters, the town of Hampton shall vote to return to using outside counsel on an as-needed basis and eliminate the in-house legal department. The cost of the legal department and the number of lawsuits has increased greatly since we went in-house counsel 7 years ago. In the past year, there have been approximately 48 lawsuits for a town of approximately 15,000 people. This is excessive. In 2007, the legal department budget was $268,000. In 2008, $309,572. And to the end of November 2009, the budget is $458,081. 119,000 being judgments against the town. With outside counsel, we'll get rid of many of the petty lawsuits generated by the legal department and save the taxpayers money. Majority vote required. I'll entertain a motion to open discussion on Article 36. Moved by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Gephardt. And my cautionary words, Ms. White, we spent, those of us who were here this morning, a considerable amount of time in Article 8 on this topic. I'm sure anybody who is still here probably doesn't need to have to rehash that in detail. So with that being said, and the hour being 7:15, the podium is yours, Ms. White.
I don't want to beat this to death either. I would just like to have this move forward. Let the residents of Hampton vote on this warrant article. We're spending a lot of money in legal fees right now, just under $500,000 this year, yet we're cutting our fire and police budgets by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even if we gave back the police and fire the $300,000 we took from them, there'd still be another $200,000 for legal department. And I have checked with other towns. Most towns have 8 to 10 cases a year. They don't have in-house legal counsel. Their budgets average, and this is with outside counsel, $50,000 to $100,000 a year, so that we're up near $500,000, and 48 legal issues that our attorney has been involved in, versus 8 to 10 in almost all other towns. I think we have a problem and we should look at it, but I ask that you just let the voters decide.
Thank you, Ms. White. Anyone else to be heard on Article 36? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moderator, we just got a text from somebody at home saying that your audio, nobody hears you.
It just was fixed. Thank you, Mr. Warburton.
Hi, Donna Bennett, Toll Farm Road, the current tax collector. And as someone who uses the legal department quite frequently, I am opposed to this article. Mark has an open door policy. If I have a question, I walk upstairs, I ask it, I get my answer right away. One thing we need to remember is that the town of Hampton is Mark's only client. We are his priority. What priority would we be with an outside legal department? I don't know if we'd be any priority at all, and we may have to wait a lot longer for the answers that I can get by walking right upstairs.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Anyone else wishing to be heard?
I have something.
I'm gonna look to Mr. Griffin.
I just would like to say that the points that Ms. White made about all the other towns aren't like Hampton. They don't have as many people coming from the outside during the summertime. I feel that Hampton stands by itself. When it comes to having as much exposure to people from the outside, like one of the lawsuits that we have going right now has to do with someone coming and preaching at the beach and this and that. I just don't think that Hampton is in the same league as a small town like Northampton or Rye. And we have a lot more than 15,000 people when you consider the people that come here in the summertime.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Mr. Nichols.
Yeah, I won't beat it to death either. We talked about it way too much earlier, but I would say two things. One is. Sorry, you're right. I would say that this petition is going to do just the opposite of what its stated objectives are. It is not going to reduce our costs. There is no question in my mind it's going to increase them. The second point I would make is there are some very significant factual inaccuracies within the text of this petition, and I believe Mr. Selectman Sonoy has some amendments to that.
Yes, I mean, again, I feel that our legal budget will go up 4 or 5 times, conservatively speaking, if we did away with in-house counsel. But for instance, in Mrs. White's article, it's mentioned that there were 48 lawsuits this past year, There were really 34, and 11 of them were tax abatement issues. The money she has showing in there for budgets for 2007, 8, and 9 are really actuals, and they're not correct in number, dollar-wise. And we don't see petty lawsuits. I have a motion to amend this article. I move to amend Article 36 by striking out all of Article 36 after the first sentence, and after the first sentence to insert the following sentences, and I have them here. Do you want me to give it to the, or read it, or what?
You have 2 copies of it?
I have one, yeah.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator. This is a private petition warrant, and it kind of goes in contravention with what was already said.
Private petition warrant articles can be amended. Mr. Zanoy?
Yes, it reads, this article is advisory only. The cost of running the entire in-house legal department is about $95 an hour, whereas using outside counsel costs $210 per hour on an average, and more for specialty labor and environmental counsel. The budget for the in-house legal department component of the legal line has been fairly flat for the last 4 years, the in-house part of it, about $130,000 per year, whereas the town's overall legal expenses haven't experienced an increase, since 2005 due to the need for more hours of specialized outside labor and environmental counsel.
That's your amendment?
Yes.
Is there a second to that amendment? Seconded by Mr. Lally. We could have the amendment to give to the administrative assistant. While that's being typed in, Mr. Zanoy, do you care to speak to your amendment?
Well, again, I think it's misleading to some degree when you look at the total labor costs that we incurred in 2009, when we settled 2 court cases for $119,000, and we did need environmental counsel as well as labor counsel. That's an anomaly, relatively speaking, and we settled them at a pretty low dollar amount, relatively speaking. We had a reserve set aside much higher. Fortunately, we settled them at as was said earlier, on 20 cents on the dollar. That money will be paid for out of the reserve fund later on and shall not fall into Mr. Gerard's budget. And again, I feel that we're getting a buy here at $95 an hour for an in-house attorney. He works 45 hours minimum. I see here, I come in on Sunday to pick up my papers. He's there. Saturday afternoons, he's there. This is a buy, and I don't think we should look a gift horse in the mouth here. We need to control our litigation cases to the degree that we can. But when we get sued for various reasons that we don't prompt necessarily, we have to defend ourselves and the taxpayers of the town.
Thank you, Mr. Zanoy.
This is a new record for me, I think.
Jerry, do you want to put in dollar signs in there?
Yeah, we should. Dollar signs.
You might put them consistently numbers, you know.
I would put $210 with a dollar sign.
Still can't see.
How long do you think it's going to go? Yeah. 10 o'clock.
Mrs. Zenoy, is that how you intend your amendment to read?
It is, it is. And I might add that since 2006, 7, 8, and 9, when I say relatively flat, there was a 4.6% increase from 2006 to 2009 in the town attorney's office budget. So,
What I'm going to do is, because we've talked about this so much and because of the hour, I'm going to give the opportunity for any one person who wishes to speak against the amendment to come to the podium, and then we're going to take a vote. So we've heard from a proponent of the amendment, Mr. Zenoy. If there's anyone who wants to speak against the amendment, please proceed to the podium. We'll take a vote, and then I'll get to Ms. Gethel.
Ben Moore, Lock Road. The same argument to me applies in an article that I favor and an article that I oppose. This is a citizen's petition. I believe that extensive modification of a citizen's petition, this goes far beyond correcting grammar or spelling, is not appropriate. The citizen's petition as presented to this deliberative session should go to the voters. We have a right of petition that goes, well, I won't go into history. It's approaching 800 years that the right of petition has existed. Let the voters see it the way Mrs. White and her 25 compatriots wanted it to be, and let them vote on it. Don't add all this.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I'm going to read this because there's some indication that some people cannot. On petition of June M. White and 25 or more registered voters, the town of Hampton shall vote to return to using outside counsel on an as-needed basis and eliminate the in-house legal department. This article is advisory only. The cost of running the entire in-house legal department is about $95 per hour, whereas using outside counsel costs $210 per hour on average and more for specialty labor and environmental counsel. The budget for the in-house legal department component of the legal line has been fairly flat for the last 4 years, about $130,000 per year, whereas the town's overall legal expenses have experienced an increase since 2005 due to the need for more hours of specialized outside labor and environmental counsel, majority vote required. All those in favor of the Zenoy amendment will raise your pink voter card, your red voter card. All those in favor? Down cards. All those opposed? I'm going to count it. Let's do a count.
Okay, hands down.
Another close one.
How would you get this in?
All those in favor of the Zenoy amendment, please raise your voter card. Who got the stage? You got them? Yeah. Okay. Down cards, please. All those opposed to the Zenoy amendment, raise your voter card.
Side too.
Cards down, please. We still get trashed. Against? 27 against? Okay. In favor of the Zenoy Amendment 26, opposed 27, the Zenoy Amendment fails. The article is as printed. Ms. Gaithel.
I know that I spoke before, and I would like to just add a couple comments on the original article. My name is Ellen Gaithel, 23 Ridgeview Terrace. I'm the Vice Chair of the Conservation Commission. I've been on the Conservation Commission since the 1980s, and I have seen what has happened to the Conservation Commission and the town because of it when we had out-of-house counsel and in-house counsel. Prior to having in-house counsel, the Conservation Commission was continually denied use of counsel because of the expense and because of the whim of the then Board of Selectmen. And because of that, we are facing flooding and degradation into the wetlands right now because everyone knew that if we had no recourse to violations. In the past year, because we have in-house counsel, we have had between 15 and 20 major violations, which very few people in the town have heard of because we don't advertise them, that because we have in-house counsel, these people came to us as after-the-fact violations with attorneys, and they were told by their attorneys, because of the acts of our in-house counsel, that they'd better rectify the violations. And they did, and some of them were huge and cost the landowners a huge amount of money. Because of that, we have had fewer and fewer violations. The contractors and homeowners know that if they violate, we will pursue it. I do not see that this is going to be an option. The cost also to the town for conservation easements and conservation land, legal expenses are huge. Other towns hire out and have lawyers working on conservation easements for years. The Hurd Farm took 7 years of negotiation, legal advice, contract writing, as did the ice pond and every other small piece of land that the town owns for conservation. We have several things that come up every year, and I would put a number on our expenses if we go out of house, even if we have a contract for out of house, would be probably close to between $75,000 $1,000 and $125,000 just for the Conservation Commission. So having an in-house counsel has saved us an incredible amount. It has also saved the town numerous violations and degradation to the town. I have a motion. I realize I want the townspeople to vote on this. The part that really bothers me are the numbers at the end, and so that I would ask that the article be amended to.
No, Mr. Scanlon, please. No.
Went against and moved the existing.
No, please, let her, Mr. Scanlon, please, let's have some respect for the person at the podium.
I just want to strike from the cost of the legal department down to payers' money from the amendment, and the original amendment still stands. The original article still stands. Those numbers are incorrect, and that really, really bothers me.
Is there a second to Ms. Gathel's amendment? Seconded by Mr. Workman. I will proceed as we did before. We had one person speak to the amendment. We'll have one person speak against the amendment. Is there anyone other than Mr. Scanlon who I will let, if there's no one else, because Mr. Scanlon spoke to this issue on Article 8? Anyone who hasn't spoken at all today on the issue of the legal department who wishes to speak against the amendment? If not, Mr. Scanlon.
I'm going to defer to Fred Rice really fast. Do you want to speak, Fred? Okay. We can get into playing this routine. We already are 27 to 26. I assume as long as no one's left, we're going to have a similar vote. And I noticed one person put his card down very quickly. That would have been 28-26, neither here nor there. This is a private petition. There's nothing personal in this. It's a private petition. It should read exactly the way the private petitioner asked it to be petitioned with the 25 signatures. It's that simple. And in the name of transparency, it should be voted, period.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. So we will now take a vote on the Gaithel amendment. The Gaithel amendment would strike the language that you see. If I could get my assistant moderator's station. Yes, please. So if you are voting in favor, you are voting in favor of deleting the language, the stricken language, so that the article will read, on petition of June M. White and 25 or more registered voters, the town of Hampton shall vote to return to using outside counsel on an as-needed basis and eliminate the in-house legal department. That will be the entirety of the article if you approve the Gaithel amendment. All those in favor of the Gaithel amendment, raise your voter card. Dennis, do you have the stage? Did someone count the stage? Okay. Down cards. All those opposed to the Gaithel amendment, raise your voter card. I concur with Assistant Moderator Kilroy that the Gaithel amendment has overwhelmingly passed. So the article is as printed with the passage of the Gaithel amendment.
Move the question. I'll move to restrict reconsideration on whatever is hanging out there.
I will adopt the motion relative to moving on and ask for a second on Ms. Woolsey's Motion to restrict reconsideration, Article 36, seconded by Mr. Buck. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration of Article 36, down cards. Any opposed? Article 36 will appear on the ballot as amended. Article 37. As petitioned, on petition of John Sanguinario and 25 or more registered voters, petition to the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Hampton, New Hampshire. We, the undersigned registered voters of Hampton, New Hampshire, hereby petition the Board of Selectmen to include as a warrant article at the 2010 Annual Town Meeting the following. Article, to see if the town will vote to approve the following resolution to be forwarded to our state representatives, our state senator, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate President. Resolved, the citizens of New Hampshire should be allowed to vote on an amendment to the New Hampshire Constitution that defines, quote, marriage, end quote. Majority vote required. I'll entertain a motion to open discussion on Article 37. I have a motion, Mr. Sanguinario, moved by Mr. Sanguinario, seconded by Mr. Workman. Mr. Sanguinario, would you like to speak to Article 37?
John Sanguinario, 39 Hampton Meadows. Mr. Moderator, I'll abide by your 2-minute warning. The New Hampshire legislature is currently considering an amendment to the state's constitution. If approved by the voters, this amendment will return to the policy of recognizing marriage is only between a man and a woman. The legislature is being asked for the third time to allow the citizens of New Hampshire to vote on the definition of marriage. In 2006 and 2007, the legislature said no to passing this question on to the voters of New Hampshire to decide. There is no good reason to deprive the voters of New Hampshire of the opportunity to have their voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanguinario. Anyone else wishing to be heard on Article 37? Seeing none, Article 37 will appear on the ballot as printed. We dealt with Article 38 earlier in the day. Article 39, as petitioned, on petition of Mary Louise Woolsey and more than 25 other registered voters, to see if the town will vote to amend the solid waste ordinance of 2008, which replaced, quote, all other ordinances or portions of ordinances that may be in conflict with the provisions herein enacted, end quote, by causing to be removed from this ordinance any reference in any and all sections to the authority currently granted to the town to process, collect, and or dispose of commercial waste, and to direct that additional language be inserted in the current ordinance, prohibit public processing, collection, and or disposal of all commercial, industrial, and condominium waste. I will take a motion to open discussion on Article 39. Moved by Ms. Woolsey, seconded by Mr. Plouffe. Ms. Woolsey, would you like to speak to Article 39?
Yes, and I'll be very brief as well. I hope the misprints are corrected when this is printed on the final warrant. There's 2 boo-boos in there that I hope you correct, please. This is a money issue and a fairness issue. We are spending a huge amount of money collecting commercial waste on the taxpayers' back. I think it's time that we sat back and discontinued that policy. And this is not directed at the Hampton Beach. This is intended to cover any and all commercial enterprises in the town of Hampton. We cannot legislate against or for specific areas. My home, and you can probably relate to this, is a 2-story rectangle into which I pour money. I don't make any income on my home. Part of the deal when you're running a business is that you should be paying all the expenses associated with running that business. And the fairness issue comes in the context that there are many businesses in this town, including the Galley Hatch, and we've discussed them earlier this evening, who pay not only to remove their own waste, but to remove the waste of other businesses that are being collected free. And I was really concerned when I attended the public hearing that the selectmen held in August to hear that we are actually having a town vehicle go on at least one property, the Best Western off Lafayette Road in Hampton, and that is an absolute no-no to go on private property to pick up commercial waste. So you understand the intent. It's pretty clear in here. It's time we get the public and residential property owners and business owners who now pay their own way out of subsidizing the collection and disposal of commercial waste.
Mr. Lally.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. This article, on its face, is probably one of the most unfair articles I've seen in many years come before the town. It obviously punishes small business owners. The large business owners, as Mrs. Wilsey said, is the Galley Hatch and places as the Ashworth and the casino. They've been taking their own trash to the landfill for years and the transfer station. But what about the business, the small business that puts out a barrel or two a week? They're out of luck. There's a line here that says, additional language be inserted in the current ordinance to prohibit public processing. I take that to mean those businesses can't even take their own commercial trash to the landfill. So I get my trash. I work in an office on Route 1. We don't, the place I work, we don't have a dumpster. We put out a barrel or two a week. So, okay, there's no more commercial trash, which I still, doesn't say in here what commercial is, but. So I throw it in my car and I go to the transfer station. It's commercial trash, we're not taking it. Now what do? This ordinance has a million holes in it. It looks like Swiss cheese. It's absolutely awful to the small business. We don't know what commercial means. It's on its face, it's a horrible article. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lally. Mr. Griffin.
I also think that this is not a very good idea. I mean, if it's been so wrong, why have we done it for the last 50 years or more? I just don't see, and I don't think there's anyone here that would want something that they've had for the last 50 years taken away from them. If this was so bad, why didn't other boards of selectmen do something about it? I just think it's very unfair. Someone like myself who does have a business, there's many motels and that they live there year-round. They only use it for a small time during the summertime, for 10, 12 weeks of the year. It's just, in the case of my business, I live there. I put out a few bags of hair a week, and I'm not costing the town anything. I feel like I need to be given something for the taxes that I pay, as do many of the other people that are at the beach or in town or whatever. Thank you.
Mr. Nichols, then Mr. Merrill.
Yeah. First, I have a question for Ms. Woolsey, the lead petitioner. Yep, here. I know. Getting a little tired here. Sorry. I have a question for Ms. Woolsey, the lead petitioner, and that question is, should this petition pass, how would she suggest we go about defining commercial?
I may be really slow on the trigger here, but it appears to me that commercial means commerce, and commerce means business, and business means making a profit from what you're doing with your property. I don't think commercial is rocket science, Mr. Nichols. And defining businesses, what's the difference? Small business, big business, business, business. We are forcing some businesses in this community who pay to get rid of their own waste and pay to have their own waste removed out of this town, and shifting the burden on them and residential property owners to pay for other businesses who are getting a free ride. It's been a good 50 years or whatever it's been, but this is a huge fairness issue to the people in this community and to the business owners in this community who have paid the freight all these years. It's time to have a public dialogue about it, time to let the public vote on it. Be fair to the public, let it go to a vote. That's all I'm asking. The time has come to sort this out. Commercial means business, and those of us who make no money on our property, and businesses who are already paying to dispose of the waste generated by other businesses, which is a valid business expense, this has got to stop.
Are you,
Mr. Merrill.
Are you suggesting?
No, I want to go to Mr. Merrill. We've been on the board for a couple.
Russell Merrill, 24 Academy Ave, Hampton. I'm here actually opposing. I looked at out in the dictionary, trying to find what the definition of waste is. And I think it includes, as I read it, what comes out of the 3 or 4 bathrooms that happen to be in our building. Now, if this is what we have to take care of, all of the waste in our properties, it doesn't quite seem fair. I don't know what kind of savings this gives to the town, but it might be that maybe the town might go along like Washington and give out some stimulus funds to the business people so that they could take care of paying for this. It's, to me, I think the businesses are paying quite a bit, and if we have to pay more expenses, and quite a bit expenses in some of them, that this should be defeated. I also think that if we have to do it, then the schools, the town office, and the public places would have to do it themselves, pay for their own. Thank you.
Mr. Merrill. All right, we have quite a few people lined up here. What I'd like to do, minute or less, please be cognizant of what the speaker ahead of you says. Don't repeat it. If you've got something additional to add, please do so. Mr. Page, minute or less.
Nathan Page, 200 Drakeside Road. A small business owner, and we have 4 businesses on my street that are small. Russell Real Estate, AGH, and myself, that we all put out about 1 garbage can a week. And now we're not going to be allowed to go to the transfer station? I'm a contractor. I come to your house, I replace windows. I figure it's going to cost about $15 to take the windows from Hampton to go to the transfer station. I come to your house, change it, I charge you the $15 to get rid of your trash and take it to the transfer station. Now I will not be able to do that. And that, because they will not be able to process. The people out of town, when I do a job outside of the town of Hampton, I take it to Epping. It costs $150 to handle that same thing that costs $15 in Hampton because of time and labor in the disposal fee. I think it should probably be amended, and I'm not quite ready to do that this moment, but this article is too broad. It's too broad of a brush to prohibit every business in town from being allowed to put a trash can out or to go to the dump. If we have a problem with someone hauling a truckload of rubbish every single day to the transfer station, let's address that. Let's lower the tonnage permitted to be brought to the transfer station for free each day and charge the appropriate amount. I have no problem paying the appropriate amount, but don't cut my legs off completely. And this is what this article does. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I get my minute?
Mr. Paquin, you owe me some time.
Richard Paquin, 11 F Street. This problem has been put upon us by selectmen of years and years, or planning board years and years ago, when they said to property owners or business owners up the beach, go ahead and build up to the property line. Don't worry about parking, don't worry about trash pickup, the town will take care of it. So now we have a bunch of business owners downtown at the beach who are limited in what they have on their space they have on their property, and there's no room to put a dumpster. So that's one problem. The second problem is that we pay our taxes at the beach, all of a sudden went up tremendously this year, and so we are paying above and beyond everybody else in town. And we also contribute to the income to the town by paying 9% now rooms and meals tax. I think we deserve, at least people at the beach, and I don't want to segregate businesses uptown and the beach, but at the beach, we are paying more taxes than anybody else in town, and I think we deserve a little bit more of services. The other problem would be there's too many different people who have businesses. Everybody's going to hire different people to pick up the trash, and you're going to have this traffic jam of dumps of trash pickups going to different people's properties. And the town's going to go down the street and say, oh, I can't stop at this person's property, I got to move on to that person's property. Oh, I'm not supposed to pick up this guy's property, I got to go to that guy's property. It's too convoluted, and this amendment won't work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Mr. Rainier.
I kind of echo Selectman Lally's comments about this commercial thing, you know, the definition of commercial. You know, some of my next door neighbors have one, maybe two cottages. Are they classified as a commercial piece of property? How do you determine where do you draw the line? What is commercial? That's too vague for me to comprehend. The second point, let's assume that we did go with this. Right now we have, what, maybe 4 or 5 compactors from the DPW covering the complete town, picking up all of the trash for both commercial and residential. Now all of a sudden you're going to tell the DPW you can no longer pick up commercial trash. So what happens? People are going to have to start negotiating with private trash haulers. And I can just envision 4 or 5 different companies leapfrogging down Ocean Boulevard, picking up the trash and skipping this business. Well, you're going to contract with this guy to pick up once a week. The next guy, maybe he has twice as much. He's going to pick up 3 times a week. This other commercial hauler is going to give it to me for a cheaper price. It's not going to work to have that many independent trash haulers going around town and all over the beach to try and accomplish the picking up that we have that is doing an excellent job now of covering the whole town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rainier. Mr. Rice.
Fred Rice, 15 Heather Lane. I look at this situation a lot differently than most people in this room. I've been in the solid waste industry for 35 years. I'm probably the only person in this room right now that knows what he's talking about on this subject.
We're not going to put that to a vote.
I've been doing it for 35 years. I think I know what I'm doing. The problem here, there is an inequity. But Hampton is very, very alone in the way it's handling it. We've got all of our collection costs buried in the tax rate, which means it's impossible to find out what it really costs. I've come to the Board of Selectmen on several occasions. I've talked to the Recycling Committee on several occasions to try and, remember the dog and pony show with the little thing? To teach the difference between tons and volume and what it costs? Well, that's true for recycling. It's true for waste, too. And by the way, Russ, it's municipal solid waste that you should have been looking up. Waste is what goes through the toilets. We're taking the wrong approach on this. I don't think we should single out commercial alone. My suggestion, my hope would be that someday the Board of Selectmen will realize that we need to take the entire solid waste operation out of the tax base. Just take it all, residential, commercial, out of the tax base. Then let everybody contract for or be billed for their stuff. The town can still do all the residential, but they issue individual bills so that if somebody has a huge amount, they bill them more. That way we can catch commercial on the same basis. They can either have the town continue to do it the way they are doing it, but be billed for it on a volume basis, better yet a weight basis, or have a commercial hauler do it. I keep hearing this phony thing about, oh, we'll have a dozen different haulers coming down. No, you do the same thing that the Southeast Regional Refuse District does on behalf of the town of Hampton when they negotiate with Waste Management. You band together and get one hauler that will come in and give you a better rate for everybody. The solution to this is simple. I'm not in favor of this one right here because I think it does not address the entire problem. I think what we need to do is get commercial and residential out of the tax base, restructure the system so that we bill people for what they get from the town. Then we'll be like 99.999% of the other communities in the United States. Believe me, Hampton is it's like a unicorn in this industry by doing it the way we're doing it. There are probably one town in 60, 70 that does this nationwide. So that's why we haven't been doing it any differently for the last 50 years, because nobody's bothered to get up and change it. That's the only reason. I'm not in favor of this, but I think there is a solution.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Mr. Nyan.
John Nyan, and I speak to this warrant article as the chairman of the Hampton Beach Area Commission, and have to report, as I promised the commissioners at last Thursday's meeting, that by majority vote of the Hampton Beach Area commissioners, we have opposed this article. And rather than going into a whole lot of detail, I know that I have more distinguished individuals behind me, so I'll just indicate for the record that the Hampton Beach Area Commission is opposed to Article 39.
Thank you, Mr. Nye. Mr. Fleming.
I'm Jake Fleming. I live at 15 Morrow Street.
A couple of things. We're talking really about logistics. When you talk to people here in town who have small businesses, not like the Galley Hatch, who have room to put dumpsters on their property and what have you, but smaller places, it's difficult they're relying upon the town to pick up the trash. Then when you move on down to the beach, we have 50 by 100 lots of land down there. Again, they built with the encouragement of the town to the lot line. And then, so now all of a sudden we're turning around and we're saying, at this juncture, we're going to take away, you have to figure out how to get rid of your trash yourself now. And also, you can't even bring it to the landfill. My other thing is, I'm the general manager of the casino. In that capacity, every day, we have 18 barrels across the front of the building. We truck all our own trash to the dump. The town has never touched a bag that belonged to us. And then now this article is saying, we can't even do that. And it's public trash that's across the front of that we have on the front of the building. And I have kids, that's all they do every day is empty the barrels numerous times a day. We're a town that's unique, that generates hundreds of thousands of people that come through here. They bring trash. I agree with it. We got to figure out how to handle it, but what I'm saying is this article is not the way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. We're going to wrap this up by ending at Mr. Scanlon, and going to start that final process with Mr. Workman.
Jim Workman, Winnicott Road. I will readily admit that I don't have 35 years' experience in solid waste management, and I may be not be the sharpest one. So using this to its logical extreme or extreme, I work from home one day a week at my business. I don't know if that means 20% of my trash doesn't get picked up or not. But aside from that, I will say there's a flaw in here, I think, even using Mary Louise's argument, in that they're not all, having served on the planning board for 10 years and seen a number of condexes and buildings flipped over to condos that are all residential and condominium. So I'm offering an amendment to strike "and condominium" from the article.
Is there a second to Mr. Workman's amendment, which strikes just two words, "and condominium," from Article 39? Seconded by Ms. Woolsey. Mr. Workman, would you like to speak to it?
I think it was just overly inclusive. There are in this town, there's hundreds of condominium units that are purely residential. I can think of one right across the street from my house. It's a condex. The people have lived there for decades. They don't intend to move. They do not rent. I don't believe they do any commercial work out of their homes. So I think it was overly broad.
Let's get a sense on that before I go to the rest of the speakers. Let's get a sense. All those in favor of the Workman amendment to strike "and condominium" from Article 39, raise your voter card, please. Down card. All opposed. I declare that the Workman amendment has passed. Mr. Preston, would you speak to Article 39 as amended?
Thank you. You know, one of the things I haven't heard tonight is we haven't talked much about the single stream trash that's coming along. I don't think that we've really given it a chance to see how that works. If people do recycle and we can take a lot of this recycled materials out of our trash collection, I think that's going to save the town an awful lot of money. Another thing, I work at Preston Real Estate. Most of you people know that. I talk to thousands of people that want to come to Hampton Beach. They come here because this is a clean beach. They love to come here. Their families come here. I hate to follow that up. I don't think we need a problem with trash at the beach. I don't think that we need dumpsters all over the place. I don't think that that's appropriate. I think Hampton does a great job now with the trash, and I think we ought to try to keep it that way. I think that's the fair thing to do.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. Ms. McGurk.
Tom McGurk, Ocean Boulevard. Actually, Bob Preston said a lot of what I was just going to say. If we don't pick up the trash on Hampton Beach, I could do a great job at McGurk's and our other properties that we have, but I can't control my neighbors who are 8 feet away from me. And I certainly don't want problems with rodents because, you know, there could be rodents down there that could grow to the size of little buses, you know? and I certainly don't want to be fighting that type of a problem in my industry. You know, in the restaurant industry, in the hotel industry, I don't necessarily want my neighbors, not to say anything derogatory about my abutting neighbors, but who could be next to a restaurant. I can't control the way that they dispose of their trash. So, and I don't necessarily want to subsidize their trash by now having to send my people out to subsidize them. And, you know, I can appreciate that we do have issues, but I do agree with Bob when he said that, you know, if we recycle and recycle more, our problems will be less and less. And I think that it's unfortunate that it took so long for so many people on the beach to recycle. I've been recycling since 1992 in my business. And I was appalled that other people didn't do it on their own. So now that we're forcing the issue, I think that's great, and we should allow that, you know, that program to see how that affects what we're doing before we try to now force the next program, you know, into place. So just allow that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McWhirter. Mr. Scanlon.
It is a health and safety issue. It's sanitation. Sanitation meaning that infestation would be mice, rodents. There are rats the size of cats on Hampton Beach. I've seen them in properties that I've taken over. 10 years ago, that one in particular burnt to the ground, neither here nor there. It's fishermen that come here for a day, come off the boats, cut the fish, and you've got dead fish that is literally rotting from the minute the remains are thrown in the garbage outside. Nobody needs to smell dead fish for more than a couple of hours. And I tell you, anybody that's ever been next to a restaurant knows full well if somebody opens their restaurant after being closed for 6 months of the year and finds out there's rotten, spoiled meat, including fish, in their freezer, that smell lingers for 3 weeks after it's picked up, and that's in the spring. So we pick up trash in the wintertime on the beach 3 times a week. It's not necessary. We have the single stream with the new Concord Consortium kicking in, all right? And believe it or not, we need more trash going into the consortium to get back our share of the profit. And that's all I want to say because we're out of time. And I want to thank the selectman, the moderator, the assistant moderator, and you know, the townspeople of Hampton for doing the job they do, because each year it seems to be harder and harder. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. All right, Mr. Lally, and then we're going to see if we're done with this.
Motion to amend?
Okay.
I move to amend Article 39 by deleting from the current article the period at the end and adding the following words, and this is in the spirit of Mr. McGurk's speech. In the spirit of Mr. McGurk's speech about recycling. Except that the Board of Selectmen may accept commercial waste brought to the transfer station and accept, process, and dispose of such waste by the town. Receipt of such material must conform to mandatory recycling regulations.
I'll second that.
Bill, are you accepting trash?
Maybe 50, but I'm pretty sure 5 of them don't want to accept the trash. It should be probably a town to accept it.
Not this low.
That's correct. Except that. Except that. Except that, the.
You want to put "and" after commercial instead of a comma.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
You want commercial and industrial waste, Bill. Get an "and" after the comma. Or get rid of the comma.
It does need industrial. Next last line, dispose of such waste.
Mr. Lally, is that how you want your amendment to read?
You want such there and strike by the town.
Mr. Lally, would you?
Yes.
Yeah, such, dispose of such waste, such waste.
Yeah.
Strike by the town.
And dispose of such waste, yes.
Strike that, Christina. That's it.
Yeah.
Mr. Moderator, as a second to this, Mr. Lally, you probably would want the Board of Selectmen or their designee. I don't think you or Rick or Dick want to be at the transfer station 6 days a week.
They can do that.
Well, it might be good to have you there.
Well.
They can.
Or does that meet the intent?
It's the spirit.
It's the spirit? Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Lally, would you
Thank
like
you.
to speak to the amendment? Would you like to speak to the purpose of the amendment?
The purpose of the amendment, I think a couple of the speakers that got up, Mr. Preston and Mr. McGurk had what I've been... Mr. McGurk and Mr. Preston mentioned the recycle. We've just recently, within the past month, have gone to the single stream. Our solid waste intake at the transfer station went down 6% last year. Two factors there. One, recycling. The other, the economy. So that's, as Mr. Rice said, he's absolutely right. There's really no way of quantifying some of these figures. But I just think we have to give this single stream some time. It's been a month. As a matter of fact, some people probably haven't even started it yet because we were just talking about it recently. Excuse me. We had a public hearing, I think it was in August or September, Mr. Chairman, at the junior high, reference to commercial trash. And I think we had about 60 or 70 people show up, which at that time, there's more than probably in this room right now. And it was a consensus at that time that we had to let some of our recycling initiatives try to work. We don't know yet if this is all going to work. I understand what Mrs. Woolsey's article's about. I've talked to her. We both served on the Recycling and Waste Committee back a few years ago, so I understand that, and Mr. Rice is also. I just think we need more time, excuse me, to see if we can set some goals and parameters, see what happens, get some figures from the Public Works Director 10 months or a year from now, and look at, if it means we have to impose higher fees for commercial trash going into that, then we're going to have to look at that. I mean, that's a real issue. As Mr. Page said, he goes over to Epping, and it's 100 times more to drop off waste over there. So I just think if we look at that this year, see if it's going to work. I think it's going to work, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
We have an amendment on the floor. All those in favor of the Lally amendment, that is adding the underlined language, raise your voter card. Down card. All opposed? I declare the Lally amendment has passed. And seeing no one at the podium, we will move further on to Article 40.
Somebody on move to restrict reconsideration.
Move to restrict reconsideration. As amended, if that article passed, do I correctly understand that we would no longer collect it?
We are going to collect it.
It said, it directed additional language, blah, blah, blah. We will no longer collect or dispose of all commercial industrial waste. So you're saying we could take it in,
but we can't collect it. I mean, am I right? Prohibit public processing, collection, and/or disposal of all commercial and industrial waste except the board may accept commercial waste brought to the transfer station.
Granted to the town to process, collect, and/or dispose of commercial.
It does say collect.
It does say collect.
Prohibit us from collecting it.
No.
It says prohibit public.
Only brought.
Just read it. Prohibit public processing and collection.
Where does it say prohibit?
Right in the blue.
Public. Second word.
Ordinance prohibits public process.
Yeah.
Should be the word T-O in front of prohibit. Except that the Board of Selectmen may accept commercial waste brought to the transfer station.
No, it's where the word prohibited is.
Mr. Moderator.
Let it go.
The intent was to continue
I think
to
we're
pick
just
up.
saying we can accept it, but we can't collect it.
Right, that's what I read.
So the trash trucks can't pick it up.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make an amendment.
I'd like to make an amendment to my amendment.
I mean, I hate to bring up,
No, it's okay. It's all right.
Do you have the language, Mr. Lally?
Is it strike the word prohibit?
Please.
I have it right here.
It won't work.
I'm sorry, Bill. I thought that's what you meant.
The word collect here, if that's what your intention is.
What if we just strike that whole second paragraph until we study this for a year?
Collect, yeah. The transfer station and collect, process, and dispose of such waste.
Yeah.
You do that?
Yeah, why don't you put it in writing? Okay, just write it, scratch it out. Take out the word accept. See what he comes up with.
Yeah. What did we leave everything No. That accept.
Yeah.
Collect.
How's that? I'm toast. I am toast.
commercial waste brought to the transfer station. That means that the town will not pick it up, but if they bring it to the transfer station, you'll accept
Stay,
apologize. I
no,
only had
stay,
3 hours
stay
sleep
back.
last night. It's starting to hit the wall here. That's what I thought we did. That's it.
Why they just don't leave it the way it was?
Okay, take that out. Yeah. That's all I wanted to do. Yes, yes. Are you as confused as I am? Yes. Yeah, we did that. That's it.
Brad, we're not going to allow it.
You didn't need to worry about that. We already did.
Leave it.
We ready to go?
Yes.
I mean,
All right, then you need to speak to your further amendment.
Sorry for the delay. Obviously, my intention was to be able to collect it, and we've made the change.
Mr. Moderator,
Woolsey.
this is the problem with deliberative sessions tinkering with private petition articles. That is improperly worded, and I am willing certainly to accept suggestions, and the suggestion, for example, that Mr. McGurk made was perfectly reasonable, and Mr. Workman as well. But it's a late hour, and this article has now been bastardized beyond all sensible recognition. It is totally conflicting in two sections of it. I would be happy to remove the condominium, which I thought was an excellent suggestion, and I believe we did that. But the intent of the article was to prohibit the town, particularly from collecting this stuff with our public packers. You've got my wording to be caused to be removed from this article, from this ordinance, any reference in any and all these sections to the authority currently granted to the town to process, collect, and/or dispose of commercial waste. And then you've got accept that the Board of Selectmen may accept commercial wastes brought to the transfer station and collect, accept, process, and dispose of such waste. You've got two conflicting concepts in here. Either put it through the way I proposed it with the amendment that Mr. Workman made, which was perfectly sensible, recommending removing condominiums. And if you must put a sentence in that you're going to try to see to it that if we dispose of the waste at the transfer station, it has to comply with recycling. Other than that, you might as well strike the whole thing and take away from us our ability to petition the public for a serious answer to this question, which is going to have to be answered sooner or later. So let's fish or cut bait here and cut out the nonsense.
Thank you, Mrs. Woolsey. We have heard from the proponent of the amendment, and we've heard from an opponent of the amendment. So we will now vote on the Lally amendment as it is shown up on the screen. All those in favor of the Lally amendment, as shown on the screen. So you are deleting language that is stricken, you are adding language that is underlined. All in favor, raise your red voter card.
Are you supposed to be holding your arm up?
Down cards. All opposed? Let's do a vote, Dennis. We got to do a count. So we're going to go back and count.
Where are my guys? Maybe.
I'll just stay right here.
There goes that theory about fewer.
All right, all those in favor of the Lally amendment, raise your voter card.
Can you see in the back? We can make that.
Down cards. All those opposed to the Lally amendment, raise your voter card.
Okay.
Down card.
Got the man on the stage.
Yeah.
In favor of the Lally amendment 16, opposed to the Lally amendment 15. The Lally amendment carries. We are on to Article 40. Article 39 will appear on the warrant as amended.
You want to move to restrict reconsideration? Somebody should.
Yeah, somebody want to move reconsideration? 39?
Oh, before he leaves.
Move to reconstruct, Mr. Moderator, I move to restrict reconsideration of the last warrant article.
Motion to restrict consideration for the last article, Article 39. All those in favor, raise your card. All those opposed? Article 39 has been restricted. Bill, who seconded that for you?
Bill, who seconded your motion?
Did you second it?
Jerry did.
Jerry did.
That's what I thought.
Jerry. Article 40, on petition of Sarah Casaza and of 25 or more registered voters of the town of Hampton, to see if the town will waive deed restriction number 4 relating to erecting a building within 7 feet of a boundary line for the limited purpose of allowing the owner of a one-story seasonal cottage at 7 James Street, map 152, lot 5, to remove an old porch roof which is failing and replace with a properly pitched, code-compliant porch roof. The porch will remain in the current footprint. The new porch roof will be within the town's height limit and just 5 feet higher at its peak than the existing porch roof. Further, to authorize and direct the selectmen to execute, deliver, and record notice of this vote at the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds at no cost to the town. Majority vote required. I would entertain a motion to Article.
Mr. Moderator, board members, my name is Jack Saldy, over on 312 Street here in Hampton, and I'm very much in favor of Article 40.
I need a second to the motion. Is there a second to the motion? Your name?
Second.
What's your name?
Diandra Sanfee.
Diandra
Sanfee.
Thank you. Jack Salty and Diandra Sanford. You may speak to the motion.
I'm very much in favor of this Article number 40, to waive the deed restriction number 4, as shown in the article. I see this restriction as an unnecessary hardship on property owners. The Zoning Board of Adjustments and the Planning Board are more than capable of settling cases that come before them. That's why I'm opposed to deed restriction. But with your permission, I would like to introduce the owner of the property at 7 James Street, and that's Mr. Robert Peralt, and he'd like to say a few words if you would let him.
And Robert, are you a resident of the town? No, I'm not. Then I have to get consensus from the audience. Would you be willing to allow the property owner to speak to the motion? All those in favor, raise your pink card. Thank you. Opposed? Please speak.
Thank you, Jack. My name is Bob Peralt, and I know it's late, so I'll keep this very brief. My wife and I own a one-story seasonal cottage at 7 James Street. We have owned the cottage since 1996. We have a porch, which basically is a flat roof made of 2x4 construction. The roof continues to leak, even after new roofing material and repairs. As I'm sure you know, roofs in New England need an adequate pitch. We plan to bring the roof to structural code and have an adequate pitch which will raise the roof line 5 feet to allow for the proper pitch. I have spoken with our adjacent neighbors who are in support of this measure. I understand that we need the permission of the Hampton voters to do this, and I would greatly appreciate your support today and in March on Article 40.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to the article? Seeing none, Article 40 will appear on the warrant as printed.
Article 41. On petition of Sue Irwin and at least 25 registered voters, shall the town of Hampton vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be used for the repair and restoration of historic cemetery markers and monuments within the Pine Grove and Ring Swamp cemeteries. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Recommended by the Budget Committee. Fiscal impact note, Finance Department. The estimated 2010 tax rate impact is 0.002 per thousand valuation, 0.2 cents per $1,000 of valuation. I'll take a motion to open discussion on Article 41. Moved by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Kilroy. Is the petitioner here? Is anyone here to speak to this article? Mr. Rice.
This is a petition from the Heritage Commission. To make it very brief, some of the monuments, many of the monuments in our 2 historic cemeteries, Pine Grove and Ring Swamp, are in very bad condition. They can't just be cleaned by normal means. They have to have special cleaning techniques. We've got to start somewhere on these. This is not covered by any of the cemetery funds and so forth, since this is a historic site rather than an open cemetery at the present time. So this is a start that will get us going on getting a good number of these stones replaced. These 2 cemeteries are 2 of our historic and heritage gems in this town. Pine Grove is one of the very oldest cemeteries in the entire state of New Hampshire. So they do need to be recovered and repaired and replaced. They've been broken. They're covered with moss and so forth, and so we need to get them packed up. And this is just some funds to start.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Anyone else? Mr. Moody? Mr. Workman.
Part of the problem is the name Pine Grove Cemetery. The town never named it that. It was the Hampton Cemetery Association, which maintained our cemeteries for decades until 1980. And I have pictures of 6-foot uprooted pine trees. The superintendent for 35 years kept planting more and more pines. They'd crash down on these slate head and foot stones and break them. And I think we ought to go back to the name that's in Dow's history, the old burying ground.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Mr. Workman.
What do you say? I'll be very brief. I will just say to the merits of it, I will echo everything that Fred said. Having served on the Heritage Commission last year as the Selectman's rep,
if you don't honor your heritage of your town, there's nothing of value left. The only other comment with the balance of my time I would make is I would like to disabuse everyone of this mistaken belief that petition warrant articles are sacrosanct and cannot be amended. This is the deliberative session, emphasis on deliberative. If we can't deliberate and amend things, we have wasted the last 12 hours.
Thank you, Mr. Workman, and I concur with his assessment that petition warrant articles are absolutely amendable by the body. Before we adjourn, I'd like to thank the cable folks. It was a challenging day from an equipment standpoint, and I appreciate the long hours that they put in. Please remember to vote on March 9th. Please remember to vote on March 9th at Winnicott Gymnasium. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Moody, seconded by Mr. Pierce. Thank you.
We're going to head in the back, Mike.
Sir.